It's booze, bolted and gravity, following Wendi eventually. Years roll by and the headlines stay while the world keeps turning anyway. Family shadows, prison walls, time keeps marching through it all. You can hold on tight to memory, but you can't outrun gravity.
Good evening. Happy Sunday. How are you all? Good? Everybody good? We just had major storms here again, trees falling on cars. It's very sad. Very, very sad. The other day, a tree in a very popular neighborhood fell on a white vehicle. We still don't know the occupant. I don't know the occupant, but they passed away instantaneously. And then I just watched on Facebook where there was a Ford going down actually a road towards where Charlie was first housed at the Wakulla prison. And that car got demolished. Luckily, the guy's okay. Ford truck. Bad news, man. These storms they come in rough. And can't really fight them. Some guy named Anthony wants to know how I am. I don't know you, Anthony. Sorry. Sent me a Facebook message. How are you? I'm good. Thanks. Thanks, Anthony. I'm fine today. So this is our Sunday night chat. I'm Patty Wilson. This is Patty's Playhouse. Hope you all had a fine weekend. Stayed dry. It was super duper hot, and then it was the heavens let loose, and then it got nice out. So see you now, John Smith. I hope you're here. Hey Tater, how you doing? I'm going out to water. It's only 82. Be back shortly. Yeah, I was watering. All I have is citronella plants because of the mosquitoes. It's 82 here as well. Nice. It's not bad out at all. It's supposed to be, what's the low tonight? Ooh, 76. When is this nightmare over? Tomorrow's only a high at 87 though. It's supposed to rain all day, which rain all week. It's raining all week. So there goes my hair, but we need the rain, so I'm not complaining. Hello, Caroline. You can see now my hair is a little droopy. How are you doing? We'll be watching from Scotland. Did you root for England yesterday? England. I watched Gavin and Stacey, and there's this whole with James, what's his name? Corbin. There's this whole, and Ruth Jones, there's this whole honoring England soccer team in the show, in the first season. Afternoon, says Melissa. What about all the conspiracies down with Lindsey Graham? Apparently, he had an aortic tear. So, from cardiovascular disease, but I'm sure the FBI will, I trust this FBI before I trusted a lot of them. But I think, if it was an aortic tear, it's hard to conspiracy that. He probably wasn't feeling for a couple days. He probably wasn't feeling well. Who was that had it? God, what's his name? Oh my God. What is his name? Mr. Roper, Suzanne Summers. That's how he died. Three's Company. Whoever was it, what was his name? Who was in Three's Company? He died of an aortic tear. His wife, though, all I could think of was Roper. John Ritter. His wife sued the hospital for not discovering it or something, but he had an aortic tear. Diana, Princess Diana, whose anniversary came up, her car accident created an aortic tear. And the French didn't move, which, you know what I'm saying? They just parked that ambulance and never took her anywhere. But that was an aortic tear is what killed her. Forensic says, was it a triple A or aortic dissection? I believe it was an aortic dissection at the arch, according to X. It was a Saturday night. I was working. I was taking care of a child. I was taking care of a kid that was on a ventilator that night. I was like, oh my God. But they brought out Mitch McConnell to make us all feel better. I mean, he was only 71, but let's see, I'll tell you what it was. It was an aortic dissection. I wanted to provide this. Here's a doctor, not his doctor, but he's providing clarity on it. This is my X account, so I'm pretty Republican, so you know. But anyway, now that's been revealed that Senator Lindsey Graham died of an aortic dissection. Wanted to provide some clarity as to how and what, as you see, the aorta is like a main water main, and it just cuts. And he apparently had arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease in a while. This means a tear in the aorta caused by hardening of the arteries. So it's hardened and it snapped. But guaranteed he didn't feel well. And being on that plane coming back from the Ukraine probably caused pressure, which probably didn't help because that's a long flight. So he was on the plane and had been in Kiev, which is why the conspiracy theorists came up. But anytime you have a heart issue and you're on a plane, the pressurization is not good. That's why people die on a plane. They just die. You'll hear about it, like a woman just dies on a plane because of the pressurization. It's not the place you want to be if you have cardiac arrest, that's for sure. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they have paddles and all, but that's not going to help if your aorta tears. So he probably had it severely. I mean, he wasn't looking like a guy that was in super great shape. But I will commend him for not theft for the Senate. He apparently is only worth a couple $1 million, even though he was in the Senate forever and did not grift off of us. So R.I.P. Lindsey Graham. But anyway, that's what happened. So whenever, I go on somewhere. But that's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that it was natural causes, but I believe in my layman's term, let me get my banner out. I am a nurse, but I'm not a physician. But I do believe that if you're in a plane and you have pressurization issues, that's why you can throw a clot, because you're just sitting there, not getting up, in the plane, which should be illegal anyway. But they don't allow you to walk around on a plane if there's, because of safety. Yesterday I was watching, who was it? Some radio show host was sitting like 3 hours on the tarmac waiting for a gate in Nashville. I mean, that should be illegal. There's absolutely no reason for that. On American Airlines, I don't know how long it took them to get a gate. So you guys the airlines pay for these gates. What in the hell? You're sitting there stuck for 3 hours on a hot plane. Meanwhile, all the other planes are leaving and you have no rights because you're on a plane. You give up all your rights. People wonder why I drive to Pennsylvania, because I don't want to be stuck like Chuck. I will drive down to Clearwater, get on an Allegiant flight, which is a direct flight to Harrisburg, Middletown, before I'll fly out of Tallahassee to go ring around the Rosie somewhere to hope I get where I want to go by the time I need to get there. No, I'll drive. I absolutely will drive. I'm not doing that. But rest in peace, man. I didn't always like his politics or his wishy-washiness, milk toast. I like people who make a decision. I don't care what side you're on. Make a decision and be on a side. This whole, I don't know, drives me to drink. So I don't like it. He reminds me of our own mayor, Mayor Daley. Can't. I can't imagine being out to dinner with Mayor Daley because he can't pick a meal. Should I have French toast? Should I have eggs? Should I have waffles? Should I pick a side? Pick a side. It doesn't matter which side, just pick one. God. Drives me crazy, people. So anyway, now I don't believe in that. I mean, I do believe he probably had that. So I just watched the Shanna Gardner hearing and her husband, 2 separate trials, death penalty. I cannot wait. Debbie Gibby is pro execution if you don't know. Woman picked a side. Hi, Blue River. How are you? How are you doing? He goes first. She goes second. 2 separate juries watching I think that they should have separate trials after this whole Katie Magbanua and Sigfredo Garcia. If a jury can do it, if you can do it and the county can do it, have separate trials. I'm surprised that with Brooks Houck, they all went together in Bardstown. I really was surprised. Can you believe 2 teams are interested in Detroit? I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm going to go. The last thing I'm thinking about today is sports. I just don't. I'm watching Chris watch himself on the neighbor's video. How long has that been? Like 8 years? And I think I can now sit and watch that. But every time I think of him in the middle or early in the morning, dumping those kids in those tanks, I literally retch. So it's really hard for me. I remember Ray Caruth. He was released from prison. God. He'll probably be an announcer for the NFL. I'm not saying hi to everyone. I'm just like scrolling. Sorry. Everybody's saying hi to each other. So if you're just starting to watch me, I interact with the chat. It's the only thing I know how to do. Don't make great videos. Don't use a green screen. This is my office. This is where I work. Patty, you think it's getting worse, weather patterns? No. I think it's hot. I live in Florida. I'm grateful for the rain in the afternoon. The problem with this town, there's so many, and I'm not running for mayor, but I will bitch about it, is that we have so many dead trees. The PR movement, because we're Tree City, USA, is such that cutting down a tree is a crime. Yeah. So the dead trees stick around. The only thing this city and the county should be doing right now as we're into hurricane season, as it gets worse as the year goes on, it's like August, September, October, is getting rid of the dead trees. But do you think they're doing that? Absolutely not. So people are dying because of the dead trees. There's a neighborhood called Los Robles. And I don't know what it means in Spanish because I took German. But apparently it means something about a tree because they had these amazing oaks, blah, blah, blah. And there came a period of time a couple of years ago where the trees were dead, declared dead by an arborist. So they had to come out. The people wanted to cage the trees. Now, you're driving through, minding your own business, tree falls on your car, you're dead. Quick. Like there's no coming back from that. But they wanted to cage the trees to support the tree. That's how lunatic-ish it is here about a tree. I'll never forget it as long as I live. They had to have an act of the legislature, the state, to take the trees down in your own property that could be killing you because there is still what they call a tree bank. So if you want to take a healthy tree down, you got to pay like 10 grand to take a tree down. Meanwhile, cars are destroyed, people are dying. So no, I don't think it's the weather pattern. I think it's the amount of trees here is just so astronomical. So when people build, like there's this beautiful, if you ever come here, there's this beautiful street called Live Oak Plantation. It's after the live oak with the moss. It's gorgeous. Guy buys a $400,000 lot, probably costs $400,000, and clear cuts it. He didn't want to build his $5 million house and have dead trees hanging over him, so he cut. People lost their mind. It's called property ownership, and if you don't like it, buy the land. But yeah, I don't think here it's the weather pattern. I think here it's the dead trees. Hi everyone. Hi Susie Q. Thank you for that sidebar. Did you see the pic going viral? That would be me. I used that photo today with my friends in a group chat saying, I am posh. This is the only time in my life I can relate to Victoria Beckham. John Ritter. Thank you guys. I do. I miss Diana too. You were at a bar. Debbie Gibby went to a bar. Good for you. Lindsay just met with Zelensky and approved sanctions against Russia conspiracies going viral. And yes, with dissection, no chance of survival. I mean, there is a chance, but it's minuscule. Why do we have to only have an opportunity for a new senator when one's dead? They're all geriatric. Nobody's seen Maxine Waters, or she hasn't voted in weeks and weeks and weeks. Weeks. I think, who it is it? Mitch McConnell. I mean, doll manipulation. Hey, D Love of God, how you doing? Your heavenly husband passed on a plane. I'm so sorry, Rosie. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Told the flight attendant he wasn't feeling good. They walked away, and when they came back, he was unresponsive, and they kept flying for another 2 hours. Why? Could they not land it? Oh my God. The person next to him. So sorry. You can't believe you're 3 years older than him. I can't believe I'm 12 years younger. He looks so much older than me. Talking about planes, I saw a stewardess on a Tucson live court today. Debbie. Be thankful you don't have Karen Bass as your mayor. Well, there is that, Melissa. You went to a 400-year-old priory today to see a classical guitar recital. So jealous. Except my mouth wouldn't let me live in England right now. I'm still jealous. And their expectant mother. I have not seen that about the hot soccer player because honestly, July 19th cannot come soon enough. I mean, I'm very happy for the people who love soccer, but this is a very long soccer term. This is like pro basketball to me. I'm like, when you're watching the soccer, they zoom out so far to show the whole field. It's just, there's no wonder they flop on the ground and pretend to be hurt. Hey, Tim Foyle, good for you on that beach walk. Tater, Patty, that's the way it's here in Nashville. That's why back in January when we had the huge ice storm was such a disaster because of all the dead trees. I mean, that is the government's job. Just is. Trim your trees or God will do it for you. Ain't lying. And then people, I'm not an arborist either, but they'll take down, like, pine trees do better in clusters. And people will take 4 pine trees down and leave 2 up. Well, those 2 are going to snap. They do better in 3s. It's just reading. None of your business say the storms today were a relief from the heat. There's a billion old trees in Tallahassee. It is. And people whine and whine about the trees. And I'm like, do you know which ones are healthy and not? You drive down my street, Old St. Augustine. You drive down it. It's a disaster waiting to happen. An ex-MP, member of parliament, Anne Widdecombe, was murdered in her Devon, UK home a few days ago by a 28-year-old man. Oh my God. And well, hopefully clearly they got the guy. Y'all can't even get permits to remove. Yeah, but you got to pay. Blue River, you got to pay for that. And you pay the tree bank. You want to see me go ballistic? We'll keep talking about trees. I can't. Patty, don't watch body bags going on the autopsy on War's precious little ones. I don't know what this means. I'm so sorry, Sin. I don't know what you mean. What is the benefit of a dead tree? There isn't one. There isn't. But people are so afraid we will lose our charm. Meanwhile, insurance companies will remove you from their role if you have them over your house. Tally French says she lives here. The trees are pissing me off. Have one in the backyard, and after Saturday's storm, about a 40 branch fell off and upon my neighbor's back patio. Fortunately, no structural damage. I love trees not near my house. Trees need trimming or they die. Tree huggers are idiots. And it isn't even the tree huggers. I mean, these people will literally, have a storm here. We have a hurricane or a tropical storm. If we had Hurricane Michael's force for the amount of time that we had, any longer than that, the whole town would have been demolished because of the trees. But any politician is effed over if they talk about trimming them. It's just horrific. I have an idiot neighbor who moved in and promptly wanted to cut down perfectly healthy trees. Well, buy the house is one option, or pay her his insurance. I mean, I only have live oaks in my house on my parcel. That's it. I have no other trees. I got rid of everything because a neighbor's tree went through my house. So if you've experienced that, then you would know how horrifying it is. A friend of mine, a storm, what was it? June 19th. 4 pine trees crushed his home. Luckily, he was on vacation in Wisconsin. He was told they were healthy. Guess what? The trusses are at eye level. He's looking for a rental. So if you want to cut down your trees, you cut down your trees. I'm so sorry that you don't like it, but the first I've ever heard of caging a dead tree. Yep. That's what they wanted to do. Whack job. And unless we are the ones who are saying it's a healthy tree, like I have mine inspected. Like I have arborists come to my home and look at those trees. Can I afford to take them down? No, because it'd be like $6,000 a tree. It's so expensive. The insurance for a tree guy has to be outrageous. I have 9 acres next to me and was worried about development. A nursery owner just leased the acreage for a tree farm. I'm so relieved. Young trees are everywhere. Put the city on notice regarding your dead trees. If you can't get approved, you can sue them for damages or injuries. Well, I can't even get my neighbor to trim his tree, which is the one that went through my house. He didn't have the money. So all you can do is send a certified letter out. Sidebar Snoop is exactly right. Hot, cold, it's always there. There is no term limits. The term limits apparently is death. And Nancy Mace, who lost her job as representative in the House, wants to run for Senate. What is up with these people who can just not, you lost, go home, work on your personal life? Why can't they just do that? Why does everyone have to have a redo? Is it that much of a high? Hi, Arlene. How are you? They get into the power. They have it set up so they cannot be removed basically until they die. You hate soccer too. I just don't know enough about it. And frankly, it's so slow. I can't stand it. It's just, I need movement. I need this is taking too long. No, like when my kids played soccer, that was adorable. It's not adorable as an adult. My daughter went to the Jeffrey Dahmer last apartment site today and video called me to show me. Oh, yeah, up north. Oh, she's visiting. That's right. I forgot to get my Cadbury. Hi, AA. Hey, Judy. How are you? Drags on because they make money. I'm not going to soccer, but he is so hot. I mean, they all have great legs. I'll give them that. Soccer sucks, says Rebecca. I know. I used to love Zero Sports because my husband's such a sports addict. Now I'm happy because my husband has dementia. So now he gets to watch his sports. I don't say a word. Go watch it. Enjoy it. I don't like any sport you can't use your face. No. So true. It are true. It does look like kickball. It does look like kickball. That's so funny. The trees. Wendi, yeah, blaming the trees. It's surprising you about the tree. Don't. Trimming, yeah, it's a lot of money here. In Belmead, where the rich people live in Nashville, if you fight to remove a couple of trees to dig a pool, they make you plant 4 to year 2. Oh, here they would make you put in a holding pond. They make you put a holding pond in and plant the trees. Good luck to you. Oh yeah, Mr. C, no. Unfortunately, my life is not such that I could run for politics, but I certainly have the opinion about. I help people win. I mean, I'm happy to stand up for somebody who actually has an opinion. A dead tree works. I know. Somewhere somebody got some money for all those trees that are dead. Oh, they're just lazy. I mean, it's so expensive. It's $1,500 just to have some branches trimmed. It's a lot of money. You have 7 pecan trees, and I would love to whack one of them down. It's such a nuisance. Oh. Starting to make more sense when he blame a tree. Except for the mere fact that she drove up and saw the police crime tape. Except for that. I had the I didn't put them there, but we have crepe myrtles here, which is like a flowering. Think about it if you're up north, like a lilac, but much more of a nuisance. And their root system is very strong. So when the tornado came through and I had these bushes, I just had everything that was any possible to remove removed. And I still have roots from I still have little tiny crepe myrtles trying to come up out of my grass. People plant them way too close to their house. Think of it as a willow tree. Oh my God. I have a bougainvillea tree in my front yard that looks like a chia pet. As long as you open the crown, aka trim the branches that are inside. I don't know what you mean. I have a 150-year-old camphor tree and responsibly trimmed it to the tune of $4,200. Oh my God. Hey, true crime. Oh, snowfall in the trees. That'll kill you too. Anything can kill you if you have too much of it. Think about that. It's very profound. And they still get Social Security. It's ridiculous. Moved to my late mother's house, continue annual inspections to remove limbs, checked trees last year, lost one tree, pine beetles. Recently had a water oak removed. Those water oaks will kill you quick because they're full of water. Like, I don't even know why they're planted. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Water oaks, I know how to tell the difference between a water oak and scary. Scary, scary. You lived in Milwaukee when Dahmer was arrested? Okay, here. A local church in my area has a 1,600-year-old yew tree that is caged off. It got bits of ancient spikes sticking out of it where the trunk grew around them. Oh my God. See if I can find it. I don't know what a yew tree is, so. In Wilmington? The Wilmington yew. Are we going to talk about the dram? What's the dram this week with the attorney meetings and George's comments? Can we pay the $35 to watch it here? Well, apparently, drama. Yeah, you could pay the $35. I've thought about getting it. I don't know that you can show it though. According to Judy has she did a transcript of it if you're a member of Judy's channel, which I am, and you can listen to her talk about the transcript. Rebecca and I went to a Capital City Conservatives months ago now. It was like shortly after the trial ended. Talked about it. I think George's comments are open-ended on purpose because I have nothing nice to say. I have nothing nice to say. If they let that cow out, I'm telling you, I will be apoplectic. If they're just using this as a trial balloon, go for it, right? But if you don't know, let me pull up what George's comments were. Just apoplectic. I don't even have another word for it. I would be so upset. Rumors are bouncing around YouTube. Thank you, Carl Steinbeck. And social media about a new development, the Dan Markel murder for hire, that if true would see a major player in the crime get a deal for her post-conviction cooperation. And while the lead prosecutor in the Markel murder trial acknowledged such a deal was a legal possibility, She told a Tallahassee Democrat she was not asked the presiding judge to sign off. Doesn't mean she wouldn't. Markel, Florida State University professor, shot and killed in his garage of his Benton Hills home on Trescott, July 18, 2014. So we're just a couple days away. 5 people, including ex-wife Wendi Adelson's brother, Charlie, and mother, Donna. And what they don't say, which they should say, is the wife, ex-wife, is a unindicted co-conspirator. Do you see that anywhere anymore? Do you see it anywhere? No, you don't. One of the 2 hired killers, Luis Rivera, took a plea deal in 2016, while the other, Sigfredo Garcia, was found guilty at trial and should have got the death penalty, but didn't. His co-defendant and his mother of his children, Katherine Magbanua, got a mistrial, but was found guilty during her second trial. Magbanua was acted as a middleman between the Adelsons and the hired killers, was offered full immunity early on if she cooperated. Convinced she could beat the charges, she turned the state down only to be sentenced later to life in prison. Unconfirmed reports of a new deal, Magbanua, recently surfaced on YouTube with conversations spilling over onto Facebook. The reports surfaced in the run of the 12th anniversary of the Markel murder. Assistant State Attorney Cappleman, the chief prosecutor of the Markel murder, said in a text message July 6th, she hadn't asked Everett to vacate anything. She also weighed in on whether she was considering. It is a legal possibility, she said via text message. No comment on what I'm considering. The question of whether Magbanua could get a new deal has been lingering in the background in the Markel case since before the Adelson trial. During Charlie's trial, Cappleman asked about it point blank. Has anyone promised you anything for your testimony? No, ma'am. Magbanua went on to testify about how it was Charlie Adelson's idea, blah, 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 which he first mentioned around Halloween 2013, and how he gave her more than $100,000 in staple bills to pay off the killers after Markel was shot. Adelson, and Garcia are serving life in prison, while Rivera got a total of 19. Magbanua is at the Lowell Annex outside of Ocala. That is George Cappleman, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, she's not saying she won't do it. There must be, I don't know how it would work, right? We went over the last time I was on the machinations of how it would work, that there has to be, I think I was it mentor lawyer or somebody? I forget who it was, that Tara Kawas and Krista Kost, loophole lawyer? I forget. But anyway, they have to fall on their sword. So basically, they have to go out and say, yeah, we should have got her the plea deal. We screwed up. We're horrible people. Give her ineffective assistance of counsel. And if they fall on the sword, then they can go through the machinations to get it vacated, and then she would be resentenced possibly on a lesser charge. But she's got life plus 60. What do you lessen it? 60? I'll give her 60. She wants 60, I'll give her 60. She wants 30, I'll give her 45. I want to make sure she dies in prison. That's what I want. Now, people are like, well, you can get Wendi, but let's play that out. You put her on the stand. Were you promised anything? Yes. I will be vacated with the information that I have on Wendi. How's that? She's already lied on the stand a couple times. So I don't even know how that works. Are they just trying to get Charlie to move? Fair. I mean, everything's open in a negotiation, but you got to get Tara Kawas and Krista Kost to fall on their sword, according to what I've read. Do you know what I mean? Oh, Charlie's not getting out. They might lure him, but I don't think he's getting out. You can't have the whole state attorney office here would have absolutely no credibility at all. You have a just verdict. It went through the appellate process. It's still a just verdict. Life plus 60. And now it's like, we want Wendi, but we don't have the confidence to go after Wendi on our own? That just makes no logical sense to me. Go after Wendi now. Don't wait. Just go after her. All you can do is lose. You're not going to on conspiracy. What does Kate... I scrolled too fast. I wish I could... It's not ineffective assistance of counsel when the client keeps lifing. I agree. I mean, but how do you do that? Like, how... It's just what I read. That's the machination, the machine, how it would work was her attorney. It was ineffective counsel or an illegal verdict. Like, there has to be something massive to be able to vacate that. And you think Judge Everett is going to do? I cannot even imagine. I cannot. And the county and the taxpayers. We paid for 2 trials. And we already had one shitty juror. God bless her heart, right? She's like, I can't put 2 parents away. The lady had to bury her child. What do you mean you can't put the parents away? You lied when you took the role as a juror because you said you could. I hope Wendi is gaining a ton of weight. I hope she gets thicker and thicker and thicker. There's no shot in the world that's going to calm that cottage cheese thigh she's got going on. Oh, Tara Kawas is visiting her, right? But I don't think she's even named as her attorney right now. I was wondering about that too. I could be wrong, but I feel like maybe she visits her more than just now. I have no evidence, just my feeling due to the attachment. Due to the feeling of, I should have let you take the plea deal and talked you into it. It is. Worst that could happen is Wendi being acquitted. I just don't even understand. There's no way she can't go on conspiracy. I still think they took, I'm going to go to the Denise Williams case, Brian Winchester, which is her second husband that she divorced, and then he attempted to kidnapped her, and then she this is why you don't report every crime, right? You don't report a crime like that because you're convicted of murder, but subsequently to reporting the crime of the kidnapping. You weren't innocent, girlfriend. So then Tim Jansen runs this great deal on Brian Winchester. And yay, now he's completely bought and getting out of prison where Denise Williams is going to have to spend the 30, 20, whatever it is. And he's standing up, yep, I got a deal. And they still got her. He sat right on that stand and said, yep, I got a deal. He admitted it. But it was before. It's like Lewis, it's before. And if they can get Denise Williams on conspiracy, they absolutely can get Wendi Adelson on conspiracy. And then you look at on Facebook, when they published this comment, Terry, about the trial, people are like, why is Wendi not in prison? How many times, one of the comments I read was, how many times does she have to be found? How many life sentences does she need to have? People are not happy with this. They think that the Wendy's are apoplectic. I don't even have words for it. I really don't. Do they not keep comments anymore in the Facebook, in the Democrat? Can you not make a comment? I bet you can't. People losers. Yeah. Can't. What about the rumor that Tara Kwas recently visited? I don't think it's a rumor. AA Legal Focus / Judy has, if you, again, are a member on her, I'm not going to, do her show because she has it under her members only, but she has her list of who has visited, and Tara Kwas is on the visitors list. Hey, Joe. Hiya, Patty. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but I could live with Katie getting out only if Wendi is arrested and brought to justice. But how would you do it? You have Katie on the stand saying, yeah, fifth time's a charm, sixth time. Now I'm finally going to tell you the entire truth. Can you even imagine what it won't be John Laurel, but whatever that attorney that Katie would have to go up against, how many times she's lied on the stand? I can't even imagine. She would fall apart. I just don't think she could be a good witness in a Wendi trial if that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? What does Katie have to offer on Wendi? Who will she believe if she tells the truth? That's my point. They will eat her up. Eat her up. Wendi going on that midnight train to Georgia. Katie isn't listed on the Vine link? Hold on. Let me show you how to look. I don't do Vine link. Just go straight to the vendor search. So this is the Florida Department of Correction vendor search. She's right there. Looking all smug. Sentenced to life, not in confinement. Getting her eyebrows done. I don't think so, Forensic. That'd be another year more for that. True Crime Wifey, you had another comment, but I don't see it. I pay $8,000 to cut a 230-foot coconut. Oh my God. Oh my God. $8,000. We know how much Georgia would love to have to convict. I mean, I believe that too. Then go after her. Hey, Susan Hicks. I mean, you just have to arrest her. I go back to Pat Sanford driving down to Miami, you know, looking over his shoulder all the time, driving, trying to beat Donna off that plane and didn't have an arrest warrant. Ugh. It's still, how do you just make a decision? Make a decision. No prosecuting violations of state law is still within the province of the state prosecutor. I just don't understand it. I just don't. Oh, I think you were talking about a tree. I just don't understand it. There's got to be a way to do it, but that doesn't make everyone look like a dick. It's just like there's got to be a way to convict her without all that nonsense. But think of this woman. She's how old? How old now? She's old, like 40 something. Been in prison almost 10 years. On the stand. I mean, we don't know what's her face would pick, right? We don't know who Wendi would choose as her attorney, but I doubt it would be John Lauro just because I don't know when was the last time he did a trial like that. He's just her bully right now. You Tallahasseans need to apply pressure. I'm only one girl. But if you read the Facebook when this came out, people were pissed. Even as a trial balloon, it came out. Think about her. Think about Katherine. She all but fell apart with Georgia. You have a new defense attorney coming out. Rashbaum won the one because he's weak, right? Alex Morris couldn't hold up a soccer ball, let alone that. His kids play soccer, so that's why I said it. But she will completely cave. Matt, who are you? Oh, you're about a longleaf pine. Hey, Rebecca. Yeah, it looks awful in her mugshot. What is the statute? I think it's 30 years. Hold on. Commit a murder. Yeah, a punishable up to 30 years or a life in prison, depending on the aggravation. So it's right here. Criminal conspiracy occurs when two or more people agree, conspire, combine, or confederate to commit a crime and at least one person takes overt act in furtherance of the agreement. How do they not have her on this already? The severity of the conspiracy charge depends on the severity of the crime. Conspiracy to commit first degree is charged as first degree felony under Florida law. First degree felony is up to 30 years in prison or up to life in prison, depending on the aggravating factors. Second or third, 15 years. Watching her be frog marched into jail is enough for me. Carry her through an airport and I will literally, we'll have a big party. Let's put it that way. An overt act like purchasing the weapon or hiring a hitman. And a conviction can be obtained even if the intended murder was never actually carried out or if the other involved individuals were not convicted. Voluntary abandonment is a recognized offense if the defendant completely renounces the criminal purpose and takes definitive action to prevent the murder. She did not do that. She did not do that. And I still contest. Take me to court. That she posted that photo of her at Lake Ella with the boys the night before the murder on purpose. It was a code. I still think she has the owl shirt on. We know she wasn't with the boys that night because she went to an art gallery event and then she went to Lake Ella by herself because Danny had the kids. I still contest. She leaves Benton or Trescott, goes the whole way up to Centerville Road because that's what she said in her interrogation with Craig Isom, who's still alive. Makes a right, goes the whole way down Centerville. She didn't take Blythe. She went the whole way back. She was a nervous wreck. Goes the whole way down. She could have made a Blythe to Randolph Circle. Didn't do that. In her interrogation, this is what she says. She goes the whole way up, comes back down around. There's a mile up, comes back down Centerville, crosses Centerville at Thomasville to go to the ABC, goes in there for a few minutes, leaves, comes out at the red light by Benton, by the, where Hothead is, which is the salon that's right there. That's an old church. Makes a left, says she's getting gas, but doesn't get gas, goes one block up to Post Road, goes down Post Road, and takes a look at the crime scene because she couldn't see it on the first way down. I still contest it. That's what I say. I think that's what she did. And I never thought about it till recently. Like, oh my God, the gas. The only receipt she did not have was for gas. And then she's quick to say, I hit no receipt. Okay. But you're here throwing out the other two receipts. And then she goes up to Mosaic and was like, how did you find me? Laura isn't a criminal lawyer. They didn't learn the lesson with Rashbaum with these white-collar criminals, attorneys. I didn't know Katie peed on herself when they arrested her. I would love to see that arrest video in Charlie's. I don't know why we haven't, but we haven't, especially hers. Rashbaum is as weak as his chin. Bless his heart. If Katie has receipts that Adelson paid to take care of her kids, it would be worth Wendi getting arrested. I watched on, which I won't share with you because you know Mentor Lawyer and I, but I'm not having issues with my YouTube because of him. But he had the Tara Kawas interview, which I suggest you go watch. And it was the Tara Kawas interview after her sentencing. It was fascinating. She spent a long time talking to reporters after Katie was sentenced. And I guess Krista Koss couldn't make it because the flights were so expensive because of a football game. And she says that the state knows everything, or the judge knew everything about how he got paid. So she's willing to say that on camera, then, you know, I'm sure you have to remember Katie's family was not poor. They may not visit her in prison, but they weren't poor. The sister-in-law, of course, embezzled a fortune because she was a moron. But the brother, Eric, who has a bunch of Taekwondo shops, is not poor by any stretch. You can block a mod. You're not, well, please don't block mods in this group. Thank you. The longer they wait to arrest Wendi, the more influence she has on the boys. It's very sad. Hey, Leslie, how are you? Home now and Patty's Playhouse. I agree with you. Go for conspiracy and let all of us review the discovery and help out. I just don't understand. Like, I don't think you can get murder on here unless you have stuff we don't know about, which if you did, you'd already done it. But conspiracy is just real. I think it's a slam dunk. And get her, even if you got her 15 years and she's out in 10, she's gonna be thick. I'd love it. If Wendi is looking at 30 years, maybe she would take a plea for 15. I want her on trial. I don't want her taking a plea for anything. I want her on trial. And she's smug enough to go, no, I'm going to court. She's smug like the rest of them. Donna's perp walk was so great with that music, smooth jazz playing in the Miami airport. And I think Donna, that night, she was so willing to go that I think she thought she was going to bond out. That's what I thought. She didn't realize the murder was a no bond in Florida. And I think that's what she was like. That was the last time she kissed Harvey. But I think she thought she was going home. Also, the more time that goes on, the more the defense says, why wait over 12 years? Well, I mean, they've already had that. So I don't think that's the issue here. When I saw the info the other AM about Katie, my jaw hit the floor before my feet. Hey, Beach Bum, how are you? What was the Lake Ella code for? They were driving through. They were driving through the area. Lake Ella's right on Monroe. They stayed on Monroe. They stayed at the roadway, which is no longer the roadway. It's still a crappy motel. But they were there. It's just like Lewis and his proffer said, which, do you want to watch Lewis's proffer or do you want to watch Katie's first trial? Which one do you want to do? But anyway, I think it was all a sign that it's a go ahead. Just to go ahead and do it. We need it done. Does Wendi send her gooners here? Yeah, pretty much. I don't care. I love a troll. 8 years later, and I suppose Georgia's just biding her time. I mean, she only has so much power. It's Jack Campbell. She can only say so much. Yeah, he can't talk to his mom. He can't talk to anybody. He can talk to Harvey. Apparently, Bree has a new baby coming. Good Lord. Hope she got her life straightened out. Couldn't have law enforcement contacted the gas station regarding, and they may have it. And we just don't know. We just don't know. And she had to know it was coming. Everything is beautiful here in California. They said that I can fulfill my service duty. Wendi was so scared of ramifications of lying about marital assets, it hated the dirty deed. And then she lies on the stand. Now, she has no problem with that. If she knew Tallahassee half as well as we know Tallahassee, they wouldn't have done anything to her. Who was it? Oh, yeah. You got to go back. I hate referring you back to Deep Dive True Crime, but you got to go back and listen to Mentor Lawyer. And Tara Kouas talks about going after Wendi because she has a bar card. That whole bar card thing. You don't do that because they have a bar card. Wanted to fall out of my seat at that point. Who gives a shit if she has a bar card? Is that a get out of jail free thing? They had just arrested a chief of a small town here for a DUI. But I guess if he had a bar card. You think a cease and desist went to Stephen Epstein? Maybe. But he didn't care either. Katie's mom lived in my husband's great aunt's condo. Lawyers are expensive, but I'm telling you, her family has money. So just so you know. Just because Katie decided to live with, ghetto trash doesn't mean the rest of the family did. Just overcharge and see what sticks. I cannot even believe. Who is Coastal? Donna wanted Harvey with her when he arrested. Wow. Donna was Xanaxed out when she was arrested. Yeah, probably. But yeah, Michelle agrees with me. She had no idea she was never going home again. The issue is Jack Campbell. I didn't see any people, but thank you. Hello, Caroline. Thank you for joining us. I have a lot of comments. I'm sorry. Tater, do you guys want to watch? Yes, please. Just go ahead and block them. Just don't. Thank you, Judy. Thank you very much. I didn't realize you were a mod. I really appreciate this. Thank you. I appreciate all the mods because I'm not even seeing anything. So that's fantastic. Wendi was about to lose her bar card, but I mean, I wonder if I could find Tara Kouas's interview without having to use Mentor Lawyer. Because he'll do a copyright strike on something that's public record. YouTubers are weird, okay? They just are weird. They're really weird. Very, very, very deep dive true crime. Yeah, he has it. He was there, so it's his interview. I don't see it. But she goes through, let me see if I can go to the, hold on. Let's see if I can find the transcript.
I see that you're in jail.
Yeah, it's right here. So this is what it looks like. Let me see if I can find the quote. I'm going to work around. What's he going to do? I'm pretty sure she says something about the bar card. Nope. Okay, here it is. It says, and my position on her is a little different as she's a member of the Florida bar, so she's an attorney. That's what she says. What time is that? 7:34. Hold on. The first of the second trial, I was looking over things again. That's why my cross was that way. She talked about the cross on Jeffrey Lacoste. Just let me leave it at that before I get myself into trouble. So, as a member of the different ethical standard in terms of testimony, just from that, my understanding is that I found from the victim. So I don't have access, but she's talking about Wendi here at the Florida bar. I don't know what I don't know what the issue is, which can and cannot say, but she didn't want to say anything against Wendi because she's a member of the bar. I'm not a member of the bar. Let's listen to Donna and Charlie's Tova working overtime. Do you think Tova still talks to her? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. You blocked Santana. What is going on? Wow. Melissa says KCL's posting something Katie Kool-Aid directed at me. Good for her. Tara, the Kwas Council feels like the mean girl who pretended she was your friend, but you could have never trusted her. I like Tara Kwas, but I was telling somebody earlier on the phone that if I ever had another legal trouble, and I mean another one, like legal, like criminal legal, I'd be calling Chris DeCoste. That's who my attorney would be, hands down. If I were that NFL, I'd be going for Chris DeCoste. So I have queued up Wendy's first thing. I mean, not Wendy's, Katie's first. There's so many trolls. I'm sorry. Chris DeCoste is amazing. Wicked smart. She could have hired a bot service. I have not watched Grish, but I always ask permission before I share. I wonder who would benefit from bots insulting people. Wonder who. Especially since I have no shame in calling her thick or ugly or crazy mom. Jenny, I hope you're doing okay. Chris DeCoste on Wendi. Dude, she almost broke, didn't she? That's what you expect from a cross. Wendi is out here tonight. Pressure is up. Grish would be fine with it. I hate doing that without him. Is it which one is it? This? Is it this one? It took you 2 hours to get through 3.5 hours of Grish on 1.5. Oh, you don't have to ask me. Oh, bless your heart. Is it this one the day ago? Yeah.
Decides to show you based on what you. Y'all see the thumbnail I just put up? I just made that. I know it looked crazy. Yeah, that is she watches a few of those people with the it's some kind of like a O-ring, half a tweezer looking thing, and it's so gross. I can't do that.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's gross to watch. Thank you, Sherry. I definitely need to do more live streams. I've been working on my Ray
Christian
Rivera
and I have a similar
documentary,
haircut.
and I really need to find my notes.
What are we watching here? Go to it.
All right. So here's my little flow chart so I can organize my thought process better. Okay. So hopefully this makes more sense in case this didn't land right with y'all earlier. So Carl does a live stream. The live stream references info Carl got last week from a trusted source. Trusted source references a Tallahassee Bar Association discussion with Jason Newland and Georgia Cappleman. Leslie, Metrics, and one other creator received cease and desist letters from John Laurel.
Hold on one second. Let me slow it down now.
The letters were received on March 3rd.
Let me make it normal.
Now, why is the letter broad with no specifics? Because the cease and desist is pretty specific on what they don't want you to talk about. But it wasn't like that. It was just broad. So if it's meant to stop someone from speaking on one specific topic, the letter would likely name that topic. And it would be different for each creator because they talk about the same thing different ways. So not naming a topic suggests one of two things. Either the sender isn't sure the recipient even knows the topic, so they don't want to tip them off, or B, the sender wants to stop the recipient from discussing the client at all in a broad way. Now, 3 creators get the same broad letter at the same time. It suggests Laurel was aware of potentially new damaging information about his client and what it contained. It's about the timing. The bar meetup was arranged as a controlled Q&A. No unpredictable questions from wild YouTubers or independent creators. So the theory is the intent was to gauge how, I'm talking about the feds, was to gauge how Wendi would respond to the district attorney and the state's attorney's office discussing the case publicly. Wendi reacted before the conference, had Laurel send letters, time to land on the meetup, the conference date.
Hold on, I'll go back because I want to understand this. Sorry. I have not received a letter, just so you all know. So Carl does a live stream. Live stream references Carl got last week from a trusted source, a male attorney. Trusted bar source references the TBA, Tallahassee Bar discussion with Jason Newland and Georgia Cappleman. And remember, a juror was there. A female juror was there, but she didn't. I know she was there because that was the advertising. But she, of course, I don't believe from what I was told that she actually spoke. Leslie, True Crime Metrics, and another creator received the cease and desist letters. Why is the letter so broad? Which is the reason I would ignore it, to be honest.
Process better. Okay.
So that's the same day, right?
this-
Isn't the cease and desist and the TBA CLE, which is continuing education for the legal, were March 3rd. Same day.
Makes more sense in case this didn't land right with y'all earlier. So Carl does a live stream. The live stream references info Carl got last week from a trusted source. Trusted source references a Tallahassee Bar Association discussion with Jason Newland and Georgia Cappleman. Leslie, Metrics, and one other creator received cease and desist letters from John Laurel. The letters were received on March 3rd. Now, why is the letter broad with no specifics? Because the cease and desist is pretty specific on what they don't want you to talk about. But it wasn't like that. It was just broad. So if it's meant to stop someone from speaking on one specific topic, the letter would likely name that topic. And it would be different for each creator because they talk about the same thing different ways. So not naming a topic suggests one of two things. Either the sender isn't sure the recipient even knows the topic, so they don't want to tip them off, or B, the sender wants to stop the recipient from discussing the client at all in a broad way. Now, 3 creators get the same broad letter at the same time. It suggests Laura was aware of potentially new damaging information about his client and wanted it contained. It's about the timing. The bar meetup was arranged as a controlled Q&A, no unpredictable questions.
Sender wants to stop the recipient from discussing the client at all, which is really what I believe was told, was in the cease and desist, that not to talk. I will start laughing. I'm very sorry. Not to talk about her family, or her friends, but doesn't list them. There's no specifics as to who they are.
From
giggling.
wild YouTubers, independent creators. So the theory is the intent was to gauge how, I'm talking about the feds.
So 3 creators get the same broad letter at the time, at least 3, could be more. Suggests Laura was aware of the potentially new damaging info about his client, wanted it contained. Very fair. The bar meetup was arranged as a controlled Q&A. So that bar meetup advertising was I think like 2 weeks ahead of time. I think it came out on Facebook 2 weeks before. A friend of mine who is an attorney that works for the appellate court, but is not a member of the Tallahassee bar at the time, could not get a ticket, so she didn't go. That's how I knew about it. She told me.
Was to gauge how Wendi would respond to the district attorney and the state's attorney's office discussing the case publicly. Wendi reacted before the conference, had Laurel send letters timed to land on the meetup, the conference date. But no YouTubers knew about the event, so nobody.
This one knew about it, but couldn't get a ticket because she wasn't a member of the bar either, so there was nothing you could do. But I was like, if I could have gone, it would have been because the juror was going to be speaking, is what I thought. Then they changed it because there weren't enough tickets sold. So then they changed the terms of getting a ticket. Just an FYI on that.
He covered it. If it was their plan, it didn't produce the reaction they intended. No new YouTubers covered that conference.
I'm going to see if I can find the advertising. Hold on. My friend got a what's the word? She got an email. March 3rd. I'm going back. Sorry. Well, looky here.
For Wendi to have John Laurel contained, so no more.
So here is the Facebook. We're here. So I knew this. So this came out March 1st, and this is where they changed the terms. Join the TBA this Tuesday, March 3rd at the Capital City Country Club for a powerful panel discussion on the Markel case. Due to high demand, we have a few remaining seats are now open to non-members, but I couldn't go that night. Once they're gone, they're gone. Registration now before it's too late. Cappleman, juror Marion Cottrell, and then moderated by Judge Sheffield. And that's Judge Sheffield, but they didn't use her. So this was February 26th. So like I was right, it came out a couple weeks before. And then there's a little video, which I guess they're allowed to share their own video.
To her on the day we happened to talk to her on the day that she had the actual script written by Donna, that we were able to photocopy and then get an expert to examine and say, yes, that's Donna's handwriting. So that was so lucky, because otherwise she would have done as instructed. We hadn't, I mean, she'd been telling us to come see her. We just happened to see her on that day. Otherwise, she would have recopied it and only been able to give us the copy in her own hand. And then obviously the defense would have been much stronger that she conceived it on her own.
And one of the witnesses that they gave us showed up at a deposition and pretty much followed the script that we had. It was a poor effort.
Yeah,
she got it wrong, but
she didn't do too good with her memorizing.
So it goes back to the basic plan. Most defendants are stupid.
Duh.
So maybe Marion didn't even show up. But anyway, it was a couple weeks before. So Wendi, if they knew that this was going to take place.
Cease and desist letters went out. Now, go back up a little bit. So, in July, this past week, enter Carl Steinbeck. What he said was more direct than the conference itself, making Wendi the target. That conference didn't have a whole bunch of like Wendi plans from either one of them. After that, everybody was making videos about this. And it's my theory.
Because they don't body slam Wendi. And they're very select in who they're trying to intimidate. But Melissa, I body slam Wendi on a regular basis. I make fun of her looks. Is she a whore? I don't know if she's a whore. Is she a whore? But they're not going after me. Maybe because I have no money. Remember, I'm poor. I don't know. But I do know that it's why send a cease and desist for a guy who lives in Portugal or some other country? I don't even know.
That spread of other YouTubers talking about this is what they intended back in March, but it didn't happen that way. But why surface this now, but not April, May, or June, but 2 weeks before the 12th anniversary of Dan Markel's death in July? Let me look through these comments. So, well, he's wondering like you. Are you talking? Oh man, we had to put Giacomo down.
Giacomo.
So we had our we had to put him down, yo. He was almost 18 and he just wasn't doing good anymore. It was I don't want to talk about him right now. But well, wouldn't it be amazing if Katie recorded her call with Wendi the day?
Judy says, Georgia said, AA Legal Focus. We are still working on it. Don't worry. After discussing how they didn't even know about the license plate issue until during the trial. We're still working on it. Don't worry. After discussing how they didn't even know about the license plate issue during the trial. I don't know what that means. You mean the license plate from the book, from the journal? Look, I thought that was massive evidence sitting in the trial. When that number came up and it had Dan's, sorry. I mean, to me, that was massive. If they didn't think it was massive, they weren't paying attention.
Of the murder. Remember when Katie said, I know, in regards to knowing the murder was done? Yes. Exactly. Because, yeah, I sound crazy now, and I've sounded crazy before, but it's starting, and people are starting to catch on. Wendi was there when this shit happened, yo. And I say that because, damn, I gotta find the page, but in Katie's appeal paperwork, which is literally 5,297 pages, there's one specific stipulation that the defense nor the state will ask Wendi Adelson any questions about what she was doing from the time that the TV repairman left and the time she went to ABC Liquors. And it says so,
or after,
in a very lawyerly way. It said that, oh man, I can't. It says something to the effect of what Wendi said as far as her whereabouts between these two times was discovered to be untrue. So if she was at home doing laundry, writing papers, emailing people, all that stuff, and the defense of every case, every trial, and the state agree that she's lying, so don't ask her any questions, why would she lie about that? Because she wasn't home.
Judy says, my main takeaways said that Harvey paid for hotel rooms for the jail friends who were supposed to testify for Donna. Why? And I watched that video, and Judy, in her legal prowess, said he should be charged with tampering, and he hasn't. Is it because it's the county? Because of the district that we're in? It's not just our county. But why has he not been charged for that? Why do we not take that kind of crime seriously here? Grish says, thank you for letting us watch your video. Boom. And the cease and desist were all sent on February 27th. So he is the tracking. In order to land on March 3rd, I found the group of tracking numbers. Leslie's letter was part of it. So he wanted it to go out a specific time. And I still say, this heifer paid a ton of money for these cease and desist letters. And there's likely more than 3. Just some people may have been nervous. I don't know. I would be like, I'm framing it. I blow it up and put it on the side of my car. And I'd still talk about how thick she is. So it goes, no YouTubers covered conference, right? We know that. Carl says a couple weeks ago or last week, blah, blah, blah. They had a meeting. I have the event, right? Other videos immediately followed on, spreading the discussion. I believed, because I watched Judy's AA Legal Focus, that it was the same thing. It was about the CLE. It was about that video that I just shared that portion with you. The spread is what was intended back in March, but it didn't happen then. Open question, why surface this now? Well, I don't know why, or we don't know who Carl's source was. He said he's never wrong, but we don't know who it is, so we don't know if he's ever wrong.
That's why it's important to read the paperwork. And if you, I know it's tedious, it's boring for some people, but that's the only way that you'll really know as much information as you possibly can know is if you read the documents. It's not just about what happens at trial and the things they talk about on Law and Crime, little pointers that people play, and the highlights of someone's testimony that's 2 hours. Some people don't even watch the whole testimony. They'll just watch a couple little, like the highlights, and then be on Reddit acting like they know everything. I shouldn't even talk about Reddit, but like, I've seen so many discussions about my videos on Reddit, and they're discussing the video and they never even watched the video. Like, how many levels of irony do you deserve for that? Like 1,000. Arguing about a video you didn't even watch. Fuck out of here. Have you ever heard of law enforcement waiting for someone's children to get? No. They're kicking in the door. The only time when law enforcement cares about coming to get you is if like say if they I don't think that they will like raid Wendi's house, like kicking the door and stuff. And I have a reason for why I think that, and I'll tell you in a second. But no, they will want to see if any kids are there or anybody that's near the door. Typically, they'll do their little research before they do all that. Because if they have to kick in your door to get you, and you know that the chance of you never coming home again is high, they're gonna come in and protect and be fully armored up and have the big guns with the flashlights and the lasers and the flashbangs and all that stuff. Because when people have nothing to lose, they'll go all out. And I think, because I strongly believe this will happen. Like, I don't think that like this is just gonna go away at all. That if Wendi had a heads up, she's not gonna go to Vietnam. If she was to go and try to escape extradition, she'd probably go to Israel. And I say that because the only time she talks about immigration that I've seen is she talks about people immigrating to Israel, not immigrating to the United States or anything like that. She's talking about going over there. So that's that on that. But I think she will self-delete. I get that vibe from her. I feel like her ego is so fragile, it'll crack faster than a plastic spoon if she had a 5 minutes to think about, am I gonna be in that purple suit like my mom or my brother? And nah, no.
Purple suit.
Self-delete. You're always, my man, your brain has switched on for real to all these. Thank you. I'm not always right. But when I'm wrong, I'll let y'all know, because I don't have like that need to be right all the time, but that's it.
Grish says he would have framed it too. I'd frame it. I'd be like, look what I got from John Laurel. I'd be so excited. I probably would make a fortune off of it. Because that I would mark it and put it on a t-shirt. Because there's no way I'm going to shut up about Wendi Adelson. There's just no way. Wendi Estrada, Wendi looking like a congressperson, Wendi Raymond. I'm not stopping. I'm just not. And I have a right to say it. She's an unindicted co-conspirator. And anytime, I'm going to ask Jeff Burlew, why every time that they are referencing Wendi, they're not saying Wendi, unindicted co-conspirator. That title has not gone away. So why wasn't that in the article? Did he forget? I'm going to gently remind him. I am. Because it needs to be reminded to everybody. She is an unindicted co-conspirator. You just don't get named that because someone's in a bad mood. But we all want her to answer for it. And I agree with him. They're very specific. Georgia is very specific. Sarah Catherine is very specific. When they ask Wendi a question, you will see it. I'll go back to OkCupid. She's like, we have your phone. And then she moves on. She moves on for a reason because of that limited use immunity.
It is flattering, but I am wrong sometimes. Are you saying that Carl's source is someone else? I don't know who Carl's source is, but from the way he words it is that Carl's source was at that conference in March. And it, by the looks of it, no more than 60 people were in there. It was frail. It was like a decent sized conference room with tables, and they were eating dinner. The food looked good. Like it.
I go to several networking events at the Capital City Country Club, NEBA, NEBA, which is a business networking thing. It sits about, I'd say 150 people is all it sits. And they probably didn't have that many because it's attorneys.
It wasn't pizza and wings or something like that. Like it was the type food, like it was casual in attire, but the food and everything looked like, oh, these people are serious in what they're talking about. It looked very, what's the word I'm trying? Exclusive. But I don't know who Carl's source is. I'm just saying that the source that he said he had was a trustworthy source that was there. I don't know who his sources are. Can we have another PowerPoint presentation? You know what? I'll do it. I like that stuff.
A way to find out, True Crime Wifey, Preston Cott's show is on iHeart. You can go back 3 years and see if the podcast is still on there. That's one way to do it. Because he's on iHeart Media.
Like there's this one, it's AI, but it's not like AI slop. Like where you can put in a video and it will break down the points of the video and it's called Notebook LM. You can use it for anything. I use it for my own stuff. Like I'll ramble something for an hour and it'll be all over the place, but then it'll organize what I'm trying to say and make it palatable for y'all, Yeah, exactly. That's I agree 100%. Carl would be a good one to get the news out. Because he's not he's not gonna be like, guess what? He's not a Nancy Grace type of all that. He's a lawyer by profession. He doesn't sensationalize. He's got that monotone. It's just him and that mic. And he's just talking. And he just says it, like tells it like it is. And he thinks about what he says before he says it. Like I like Carl Steinbeck. Like when I got the idea to actually make content on this case, it was because of his videos that were like 100 reasons why Wendi is.
I found it, true crime. Hold on. There's some things I'm very good at. I'm just very good. They don't clean up the transcript. Hold on. I'll let you see it. It's a big story of the press box about the morning show with Preston Scott, blah, blah, blah. Brought to you by Custom Blah. This is Grant. Let me listen to that.
Victory.
Oh, hell. I'm so sick of these ads. How do I get rid of them?
Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side.
Here it is. Wrong listen. Oh my God. So sorry. Yeah, yep, listen on.
John Daly here. You know what day it is? Neither do I. I live life daily. That's why I own
Advanced Clean Motor Oil. It cleans your engine in one.
Stay ready. Call 1-800-GRANGER.
Ago to join us on the show. Hey, Carl.
Hey, good morning, Preston.
You are doing yeoman's work, buddy. Carl is featured on a YouTube channel, Jury Trial Mentor, and you can follow the happenings on this case as well as I'm sure many others on the website. Carl, of course, is a very seasoned prosecutor and defense counsel. The verdict came in. You called it. The timing of this, it didn't take him long.
No, it was such an awesome job done by Georgia Cappleman in her closing. She had all that deep dive minutia of detail in such a storyline fashion. It was like a
True crime. Is this the episode that you're talking about? Can you text me? Hold on. Is this the one? Before I have to like listen to all that crap. Is this the one you meant? Because I only hear him. Hold on.
documentary or a movie, the way all this information was showing up on the screen behind her as she's walking the jury through how this murder plot happened and how Dan Markel was viciously killed.
I made several notes as she was doing her closing, and I, like you, Carl, thought it was absolutely spectacularly brilliant. I thought it was simple. It was easy to follow. It was chronological. It got into the details. I think she also made a very important point at the beginning, but I'm curious of your thoughts of it. She said it only takes one of you
before the verdict.
To
it's not the one.
Right.
I'm gonna take a look at this while you watch Grish, because I'm gonna find the right one.
I forgot the exact wording, but like involved or something like that. And I had already known about Sigfredo and Luis before they were arrested for this case. So when my girl put me onto this, she's like, I think you'll like this. This is right up your alley. You got to watch this. And so I watched it, and then I heard those names. I was like, oh, I know who these people are. And then I went to I was doing my research on this, and I watched his after I started noticing a couple things that would give me something unique and useful to say you know, in terms of content. I saw Carl Steinbeck's videos on that, and I watched them over and over and over again. And it's like, it's interesting to see what a prosecutor considers evidence. And some of the things he brought up that he considers evidence,
The producer for the morning show.
are evidence, are they show me that there's evidence in other places, because I look at evidence differently. Like the things that law enforcement uses to try to build a case on someone, that evolution of, you know, not leaving a paper trail and all that other stuff, those things are figured out on the other side. And then law enforcement catches up. So there's certain things that he talks about, even this past week when I listened to him. It's like, oh, all right, for example, he says WhatsApp. He talks about WhatsApp. And he talks about how Georgia keeps bringing it up. And I'm not saying this to like be critical of him at all, because he knows what he needs to know to do what he's done in his career. However, there's way more that goes on before you even talk about WhatsApp. All right. When I was looking at the call records from July 18th, and I think on June 4th, there were some rapid tandem of calls in the early morning that separate groups of people, when I mean by separate, I mean people who aren't supposed to be in contact with each other, their calls are going one after the other without overlapping. So it's like, say I have, for example, so you have Sigfredo and you have Wendi. And no one, well, until recently, you're welcome, people didn't think that they had communicated with each other. Some of y'all have like really taken it further, saying it was like some salacious and sexual stuff with them. No, I'm just saying communicating for the purposes of this mission. And there's calls between Sigfredo and Katie.
I'm going to expand on that because we learned last week when we chatted that October 31st, and I think it was True Crime Wifey that told me this. In fact, I know it is. October 31st, they meet at the Lincoln Road, club night at Halloween, but the checks started coming November 4th. The cash started coming November 4th to Katie from the Adelsons. It had to have been talked about before this October 31st. Had to have. Because Charlie's got to go, hey, I got somebody. Mama, start sending cash over. Take my pile.
And then Wendi and her family, they go back and forth. And at the time, Sigfredo was in Tallahassee. The chances of these two people having calls that go back and forth, if one, I mean, it all damn near matched up to the time, the exact times of the call. So it'd be like 1 minute, 30 seconds, hang up, pick up, 1 minute, 30 seconds, hang up, pick up. These people have nothing to do with each other, but they're in the same geographical location and their calls are going one over the other. Most of y'all don't really read the call reports like in that way. You just see like, oh, this is who he called and who that person called. No, I'm looking at the space in between. I'm looking at who talks to who and for how long, because that tells me what's going on. If someone talks to someone for a minute, and then these are people exchanging information, sometimes comparing notes, because people lie in criminal activity to save their ass. And some people need to compare notes with people they're not supposed to be really involved with, but someone in the middle makes some selfish moves, i.e. Katie, things like that. And when I mentioned that the first time, I don't know about that. But then when I brought up her bank statements, it makes sense. And so if Carl's talking about WhatsApp, cool. But how does WhatsApp help these people do what they need to do in their mind? It's advertises into encryption, all of that. And people talk about burner phones, but I'll say it again. Smartphones to people are like black boxes to airplanes. If you're going to be involved in any criminal activity, I strongly suggest you never use a burner phone. You just be disciplined. And part of being disciplined is knowing what you have to be disciplined about. And that's something that the Adelsons and Katie, I can guarantee you they don't know. WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram. Those are apps that you can use for regular stuff, but people know what they're really used for. And I'm going to tell you that people who use them for those things, who are like the Adelsons, don't know that that stuff can be caught by law enforcement, and they don't know how. Let me ask y'all, what are 2 ways that law enforcement can get your WhatsApp records without your permission via a search warrant? So ask y'all that. Give you a couple seconds. Don't know. Cloud. That's one way. Now, if you have your WhatsApp and it's backed up to iCloud, when they get the warrant for your iCloud along with your phone, along with, all that data, they'll get that stuff. And say if your phone is their WhatsApp or any other encrypted app is not connected to iCloud, and that law enforcement will get it without even, I'm gonna give you a hint, without even trying to get into your encrypted messaging app. Give you a couple seconds for that. I've literally thought about the WhatsApp when Georgia asked them about them during both trials, and she never testified on any messages specifically. All right. Yes, they got, they have to. Here is something that y'all not gonna supposed to know because you're not out there getting arrested or avoid getting arrested every day. They've got you. I know this for iPhone. If your messaging app has its notifications on in any capacity, you're cooked. Because when
bing, 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 bing. That's the answer. Because it all goes through Apple or whatever you're using. WhatsApp is owned by Meta, which is owned by Facebook. Facebook owns Meta, Facebook owns WhatsApp. If you lose your access to your Facebook, Meta wants you to have a WhatsApp, and then they're going to send you your special code to the WhatsApp. But if you have notifications, and if you're asking me why I know this, because I have a cybersecurity degree, if you have any notifications on your phone for any app, it is now owned by Meta.
When you receive a message from someone on that messaging app and your notifications are on, it sends a copy of that message to the notifications part of your phone. It's no longer part of the app.
It's not encrypted.
It's no longer encrypted. It gives your notifications a copy of that message with the timestamp. And even if you have it to where it just shows how sometimes if you go on your notifications, you'll have like an abbreviate, a summary of your message, or it'll have like a few words of the beginning of the message, or not even that. It might just have the name of the app. It'll just say messages. Doesn't matter. That's what your phone decides to show you based on what you.
So it's either owned by Google, which is Android, is Google, or it's owned by Meta, which is Facebook and such, and Apple. I mean, it's just the way it is. And people forget. Ding, 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 ding. So if you're having an affair, if you're doing any of that goody stuff, you're trying to commit a murder or whatever it is, stop. First of all, stop committing the murder. Second of all, stop using anything.
Select in the notification settings, but the app still sends a copy of that message to notifications. Game over. Right. Why would the notifications be encrypted? Exactly. This is what I mean when these people these people who do the worst crime you can commit but have no criminality, no kind of. No, they don't have that. Like a lot of these ins and outs of criminality, you learn from getting caught, from learning from people who've gotten caught, from just, oh, don't do that. If you do that, then they can get this. If they get this, they can get that. If they get that, you're doing 5. That's how it works on that side. And when the new thing comes out, I remember when WhatsApp came out, I looked at it as, ooh, I can text Canadian girls for free. I don't have to pay 5 cents a text to text girls in Toronto. That's how I looked at it at the time. But there's more to it. The notifications will get you cooked. And around that time, 2014, when the iPhone 5S came out, that was the first Apple phone that measured your steps. Before that, the phones didn't measure your steps. And then when iOS 8 came out, they all measured your steps. So if you've got phone number 1, and you got phone number 2, and you're walking down the street and they're both on, and your steps get measured and saved in your phone. Every single step you take, every move you make, every single day, the feds are watching you. So like you have both these phones with the same tempo of walking, the same steps going up the steps, you're cooked. I'm telling you, these people are not smart.
Go back to Chris Watts. They knew that his wife went up the stairs but didn't come back down on her own 2 feet. And that was, not the same time. That's more recent. But the one good thing about having more time, just like the Audible from the, I can't remember the name of the cafe that they were at, but through time, they can hack more and more in the past than they could. But if her notifications were on,
Mark, they're really not. And that's part of the frustration. Like, I know they got a lot of all these people. I read the paperwork. I'm like, oh man, this is a wrap. You think if Wendi had iOS 8, I don't know what kind of phone she had. As far as my theory is this. I think that Wendi had a regular iPhone and then she had a burner phone. And her burner phone had a different iCloud account. A separate iCloud account. So, and I'm basing that based on how the things are arranged in the paperwork. It's sometimes they sneak things in there without trying to tell you exactly what they are. But if you have a phone number that's a track phone, then you have another email address, a third email address for Wendi, and then that track phone has 2 forensic extraction methods attached to that track phone, and the only other phone that has 2 extraction methods on that phone is Wendi's phone. So what are we talking about? If Wendi had an iPhone 5S or anything around there, they would have had it. They got her. Burner phones are... These people don't have that discipline, yo. It's the burner phones, smartphones, period, are, if you're going to be doing wild stuff, don't say anything. Nothing. Because it's a wrap. Those tower dumps, they didn't have the names of these people on the tower dump. They just have a list of phone numbers that were connected to towers near that gym that Dan was going to. That's all they had. And then they map it out. This number was here. It was all the way in Gainesville. It was down in Miami, and it stays in Miami most of the time. Then they say who this belonged to. But I think that the phones that they have for Sigfredo and Luis were burner phones themselves. The actual numbers, I think they're burner phones. because they're already in the streets and they were already like, from what I can tell, they were cycling through numbers a lot. They might have kept one and just kind of kept it for a little bit longer than a few months, but for the most part, they were dumping those phones. And Luis even said himself, he got a new phone for this mission and dumped it shortly after, but it wasn't, they don't say exactly how they caught on to it, but like I said, if you're around other phones that have the same, you're going the same places, you're using one, then the other, stuff like that, they don't need someone to just look through data manually. They just put that in the computer and go from there. And then all these extraction methods, they can go, they can have us. I forgot what the term is called.
How did Wendi call her friend in London? What, it was likely on WhatsApp or I don't know, maybe Facebook. She had active Facebook then. But there had to be something. She didn't use her just phone to call directly to London, unless she kept an international plan, which she likely didn't.
But they can have a data file from your phone, and it's just there. But the technology that sorts through the data constantly gets better, and then they just put that through again. Feds aren't giving all this to the state, and the state has Adelson fatigue. Georgia and Jason argued that Dan's license plate number and Donna's planner wasn't relevant, and they missed pay Katie. I remember I heard that. When I watched that today, I heard that.
Feds aren't giving all this to the state, and the state had Adelson fatigue. True Crime Wifey says, Georgia and Jason argued that Dan's license plate number and Donna's planner wasn't relevant. I'm so sorry that Jason Newland felt that way, because we were sitting in the gallery with our mouths open, afraid to get kicked out because our jaw moved. It was a big deal.
The feds aren't giving all their information to the state, and you got to really listen to Georgia say it, but she's really, she frames the flow of information going from the feds to them when the feds feel like it. So the only logical reason I can think that they haven't gone after Wendi is because Wendi is involved in other stuff. And the other stuff she's involved in is a means to protect herself from prosecution.
I don't know what that means.
So, to answer your question, anyone knows if Luis ever shown a photo lineup? Yes, he did. I can find the document, but that'll take too long. But yeah, he did pick Wendi out of a lineup once he started talking about seeing her at the scene. Yeah, he picked her out of a lineup. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, the information from the feds to the state. That's I feel like Wendi, through not just like her family, but if you've got a decent amount of money, you got friends. They might not be good friends, but if you got a bad friend, one thing they'll help you do is spend your money. So one thing that people who are, you know, connected, they have a lot of money, they do a lot of these nonprofit 501c type of, you know, charities. Do I think it has to do with politicians? I think that might have been the intent at some point, but no. I'll tell you why I say that. I think that, well, I looked at if Wendi has donated money to a political candidate. And I found one instance where she donated $100 to political candidate, Democratic Party, and their opponent in the Republican Party. Do you donate $100 to both sides of the election? What does that tell you? It's not about what that candidate is talking about because you're giving money to both sides. So it's about what that candidate can do for you, right? If they win. Now, being that it's a small amount of money and she's putting the money on both candidates, it makes me feel that she's part of a certain political action committee. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
And this is true. Not because I just know a friend that was forced to work with Wendi when she was working for Michael Fernandez. So that's why I know she was working for political.
And Wendi, in her immigration law stuff, she's doing nonprofits for immigrant kids coming to the United States.
Beach Bum, I don't think they discussed it at all. If you watch Lewis, as I recall, Sigfredo got out of the car and started banging so quickly and got back in the car that I don't think Lewis had a chance to say anything. They just took their shot, literally. That's my opinion.
But thanks to Murder by Maestro, I saw a video of her promoting the immigration to that one country in the Middle East. And I also noticed in 2011 for the Florida Bar Association, Wendi did some kind of research, document something about child trafficking with the person who became the ad litem attorney appointed by Ron DeSantis. And his office was next door to ABC Liquors. And if you look at the schedule of the building he worked at, which was the Leon County Courthouse, where his office was on the second floor, suite 208, the lunchtime for the court is 12 o'clock. And she was there at 12:30. I mean, she did that. She did something with him in 2011 on some law stuff. But the liquor store she goes to, when she has all these others, she goes to the one closest to that guy. And in 2019, 1 month before Katie and Sigfredo's trial, she puts a Florida official appointed by Ron DeSantis. She puts him on her payroll for her nonprofit that didn't file taxes the following year. I mean, I don't know about you, but that would take some time to look into if I was the FBI or something. And that guy, the ad litem attorney for the state of Florida, he stepped down. He started doing other stuff. But before he started doing other stuff, he got caught up in a little scandal for overbilling the state for dental procedures for kids for $500,000.
What? Hold on one second. Not you, Chris. Carl just posted Charlie is not getting an appeal. He can post whatever he wants. Charlie is not getting a new trial. It's not happening.
Of all things. Your dad's a periodontist, your brother's all that. But that guy got caught up for some $500,000 overcharging the state for dental procedures that weren't even done. Like, how does that happen? But 1 month before Katie's trial, he's listed as a director for your own nonprofit that you started out of your apartment or out of your condo in Miami. I don't know. Then you have that other guy who we all know, the one with the files, the one that had the prime minister of that one country in the Middle East over at his house all the time. The one that got Prince Andrew became Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, that guy. The one that let the kids with the little island. His house was right over near Wendy's, wasn't it? Right? Yes, it was. Southern California. He had one house there. Yeah, in Palm Beach. Oh.
Can we go back to that? Why are like all of her friends on Dan's security system notifications after the divorce and no one tells Dan? Did anybody notice that when she talks about that nonsense?
Well, when Wendy's working for the Impact Fund for Mr. Fernandez, someone that worked or knew Mr. Fernandez forwarded the email to Big Jeffrey. And Mr. Jeffrey said, "That's interesting.
I'm sorry.
There's nothing else in the files about this." But one of Mr. Fernandez's corporations sent $100,000 to Jeffrey's nonprofit 3 times. That's a lot. I'm not saying that she's... Look. If it's not what I think it... I hope that it's not that stuff going on. But if you take the time to read those files, this is nothing short of demonic behavior. And that man is tied to that country in the Middle East. Simply put, it's there. Him and Maxwell. I don't know if there's a direct connection, but if when he's a...
I was just talking about this to someone. Want to know why Michael Fernandez was so far up Wendy's hoo-ha. He's the billionaire. He has property here in Gadsden County. I have no idea why he is so far up her hoo-ha and forced her on people to work with and made her lobby for him. I have absolutely no idea.
Employer, if a guy that is around them is just forwarding an email that's a private email over to Mr. Jeffrey, and Mr. Jeffrey likes to trap up really rich dudes, and then his other corporation sends him a few $100,000 right afterwards. While Wendi worked there, what am I supposed to think? What's there to... Come on now. Not Jeffrey the cast. I'm talking about that guy, the files.
He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to mention his name. Okay, let's go.
Optics of this whole shit.
I don't think it has anything to do with politics.
There's really no discrimination going on there. Bump. Daphne, Alabama. Yeah, I don't even know where that is. But that sounds like Daphne, Alabama. Sounds like
Daphne, according to my radio show producer, is a very, very nice town. So why Andrew Gillum, former, running for governor here, got caught with like meth in his car, we don't know.
Male talent in Miami when you got a wife at home in Tallahassee and kids.
Still talking about Gillum.
The system in order to not store the memory that can haunt him later on. So most likely he didn't talk to Katie about any of that because it's not there. Quick story. I used to have like a really bad social anxiety type of issue for like 10 years. I couldn't go for some reason. I think I developed like a really strong anxiety for being in public buildings.
I have a strong anxiety about everything, Chris. I'm sorry.
I think that Sigfredo was just a big teddy bear because obviously the way that Katie was talking to him, if Sigfredo was really a psycho, he wouldn't deal with that. He would just probably beat her up just for talking out the side of her neck because she was talking to him crazy. He just has that little part in him that makes him able to do certain things, but he needs the substances to keep his memory from haunting him.
I think so too. I think Sigfredo's guilty of a lot more than Dan Markel's murder. Just an opinion.
You're looking for your opinion about what specifically? Because I'm trying to keep up with the comments. So Wendi would grab Sig for insurance. She didn't want to get ripped off again. Yes, but no. I think she would because in her mind, in Wendy's mind, as far as Wendi would grab Sig for insurance, she would because she doesn't know any better. But
I absolutely believe she's the most ruthless. I think she's so much, and I've said it for years, so far into this, so much deeper than what we know. And I just pray to God they do not let her out.
But if she knew better, she would never interact with him directly. But these people think that, they can just talk to the manager, so they go to Sigfredo. I think part of the reason why I'm so obsessed with this case is that it's a group effort, but it's not like all a cohesive effort because things have to be compartmentalized. But most of these people who are part of this murder for hire didn't participate for money. Okay? They didn't participate for financial gain for themselves. They participated for things you can't pay for. Charlie participated because he's the fixer for Donna. Donna participated because she wants to control her grandchildren's day-to-day lives. Wendi participated because she doesn't want Dan to control her life or have anything to do with their children's lives and would rather have Donna be a free babysitter.
Which is what I've said all along. Wendi hypes up her mother. The mother hypes up Charlie. Charlie gets Katie involved. Katie's like, I get a boob for free. One boob, whatever. And then she hypes up Sigfreda, who gets in Lewis. But Wendi, none of this happens without Wendi. Define conspiracy. Define it. How on earth can we get to even 12 years later without this woman being arrested? Dan's tag number is in the planner. She calls and verifies he's going to be out of town. She double checks with Jeffrey Lacoste to make sure he was leaving town. The first car looks like Jeffrey's car. She all of a sudden has a Mosaic lunch appointment. She has all day to get the bottle of Bullet, but she all of a sudden has to take a turn all the way down Centerville to double check to buy the Bullet Rye, instead of the 5 locations closer to her house that are in proximity to the Mosaic. That's why people don't believe it, Glenn Thomas, because she had the lunch appointment at Mosaic. She says she doesn't drink. Why would you automatically, we all know that's a lie, would she go to the one that's closest to Dan's house? Why would you do that? Then she lies about, she sometimes goes by the house to get over the trauma of her divorce. That's just a lie. All of it is a lie. That whole 3-4 hours is a lie. Then she says she's on the phone with Charlie deciding whether to get the TV repaired or replaced when the Best Buy guy, Geek Squad, told her it can't be repaired. It cannot be repaired. She lies. Why would she lie to Charlie and then say so in her questioning? It's not an interrogation. In her questioning about the TV and say, we talked about getting it repaired or replaced. It was never an option to get it repaired. It wasn't a phone screen. Back in the day, you just couldn't do it. She lied. She flat out lied. I was talking to Charlie, however long. We were talking about getting it repaired. Meanwhile, Best Buy guy says it only could be replaced. The TV is 5. That just didn't jump out of nowhere between Donna and Charlie. She comes up with it too. There's just no way. The schedule for the kids. She feigns being pissed about going to the pool. She only gives friends of Dan's that are out of town when asked for a list. She refuses basically to give the Markels information, so much so the ER doctor has to go on Facebook to find where Phil Markel is. Then she says, should anyone even go there until he's already dead? Should we even tell the family until we know something for sure? Which for the last 12 years went completely past my brain until we all watched that together. She throws out receipts like it's bills. She didn't throw those receipts in her van, which was filthy, by the way. Does anyone remember the inside of that van? She didn't throw the receipts like, I get a receipt, I just toss it in the van. I just toss it in my car. No, she had it in her purse ready to go. Why did she have those receipts from Mosaic and everything right in her purse? How many of us, raise your hand, keep our receipts in our wallet right away? And you saw what a slob she was. She needed that alibi. She says, I talked to Kara last night, but then goes on to, from Kara, then I was at this place. Then it was a friend of a friend named Malia. And then we just sat for hours in the, how many people think Wendi talks to strangers for hours? She's lying. Which is why John Lauro she's never sitting for a deposition to say, when I say to you, she's lying about Malia, that John Lauro is going to send me a cease and desist, and I'm going to say, fantastic. I'm going to represent myself, but we're going to have one hell of a deposition because I want to know who Malia was. And I want to know how often you talk to strangers at Lake Ella for hours and hours. And I also want to know what shirt you had on that day. And I want to know what day you took that photo. And I want to know why you positioned yourself right in front of the U-Haul place, which is like 6 blocks from Coup de Grace. I want to know all of it. And then I want to know why you were at the art gallery at Nomads. And that's my assumption. You were at the art gallery right next to Coup de Grace because you went to the Handbag for Hope or whatever it's called. I think there's something called that recently. And then you're going to the Lake Ella thing by yourself for hours. I would love to know. And there's no way that woman's sitting for a deposition when I say she had that owl shirt on and she made sure she had the owl shirt on. Shortly after, he goes to Roadway somewhere, posts the Instagram photo. Katie freaks the fuck out. And then I want to know how Sigfredo calls Katie to find out why Wendy's staring at Lewis. Where were you that night, Wen? Do I get to ask that in a deposition when you sue me for slander? I think I do. I think I get to ask those questions. But I really want to know. There's no way. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. She just pulled out those receipts like she didn't know anything else. She needed 25 tissues. And even Glenn Thomas, her apologist, says she was crying through her nose. Even Glenn Thomas admits she had no tears, but she's crying through her nose. How does one physically do that? Does any doctors, any nurses in here? So even Glenn, who believes she's innocent, not guilty, but innocent, and that we're bullying her, says she's crying through her nose. How does that even work? I could do this for 12 hours. She is lying about being home on the 13th. I don't believe, and I think True Crime Wifey told me this, that I believe that's true. I believe she lied to Jeffrey Lacoste. I believe she was packing. I believe she was down in South Florida packing up her bedroom from her childhood. She lied on the stands about living in an apartment with her family. She didn't. They might have visited her, but they gave her that apartment at the Continuum. They rented from the Icon. I know that because I found the permit. And I did send it to the FBI. She lied. She lied on the stand. I lived in you didn't live in Coral Springs. No, you did not. You had your address and then you changed the second permit. You changed it to your attorney's address and not any old attorney. It was the estate attorney address, which happened to be a South Florida attorney. No one local. Why are you down in your mom's house when she didn't sell her house till the next year, packing up your bedroom? Why? No one's ever, why? Why were you down there for weeks on end? I know you were probably hoeing around on Jeffrey because he said so. He said on the stand, you're like cheating on him. So why are you packing up your childhood bedroom? Probably carrying crap down there every time you went down. He said you were down there weeks at a time. So you're carrying all your crap down from the bedroom. And it just doesn't make any sense. All of a sudden, you have to move stuff out of your childhood bedroom because you're taking shit from Aqua Ridge down there. I don't know if anyone talked to the neighbors about you loading up a van or not, but there's no way you didn't have shit packed. No way. And yes, if you send me a cease and desist, I will represent myself and I will ask the questions. I will get to depose. And I will enjoy every second of it. And I will sit in the room. I will travel to it. I won't be on a Zoom. I will have a GoFundMe and I will raise money and I will sit there and look her right in the eye and say, you're thick. And you are a horrible mother. She wants to be seen as this grandmother that's protected her boys when she has not. She's changed their names. She's changed their names on their sports jerseys. You can go through, I don't need to show you because I wouldn't, but you can go through and find and do the deep dive, and literally the deep dive, and find out that they use Estrada. What kind of psychobabble bullshit is that? Yes. And that's so easy to find. They don't even hide it. You change their names. The name was changed on Donna's invite to Daddy Pooh's Harvey Poophead. His birthday, she changed it then to Adelson. And they weren't even, Dan wasn't even gone. And that was shown as evidence because it went through a third-party site, where the Stock the Bar party did not go through a third party, so it could not be verified that it wasn't edited. Elizabeth Emanuel, I don't know if she arranged the party, if it was her party. They were tight. They were tight for a bit. Elizabeth's big in the chamber now. I think she's still big in the chamber. Wendi knew how to get in with the right people, for sure. She's good at that. She got in with Michael Fernandez. Why a billionaire would risk his whatever reputation you have when you're a billionaire on that hoe, I don't know. I have no idea why. But she lied. Does that make conspiracy? I don't know. But you can't tell me that going all the way down to the ABC, and I'm sorry that an investigator didn't believe or think that was a big deal, but it absolutely was a big deal. Maybe that's because at the time, we didn't have those big murders here. You know, it wasn't a big, we didn't have a bunch of murders like we do today. And so it was just like, oh, she said she didn't. Maybe he was like believing her like Craig Isom. I don't know. But luckily, George Cappleman didn't feel that way because she asked her. How many times on the stand did they ask Wendi? And every time it changed. And that's not conspiracy. That's not, if it's the truth, you don't lie. There's no way she was not planning this. There's no way she was not prepared to back. How on earth, 2 days after the man was perished and had it murdered brutally and had a honorary, his life, and she's gone. Who drove? Where were the kids sitting in that car? How many cars were there? Did you tag? Did you ride along? Was Donna driving one car and Harvey driving another? Those questions have never been asked. Ever been asked.
Sigfredo participated because he wants to get Katie back. Luis participated because Sigfredo can't do all of that on his own without getting caught immediately. That's crazy. Katie did it because she wanted out. She's the only one in my opinion, that it was strictly money. And everyone else did their part just for approval of someone else, getting the approval from their mom, getting the mother of their kids back. And it might sound crazy to like, if you're not really, I'm talking in a cultural sense for Sigfredo. As a man, as a Latino man, if you're not providing for your family, that's an emasculating experience. If you're a woman,
I guarantee you, when I passed her in the hallway and took a picture of her, I was not mesmerized. I was like, why is she free?
Is working and you're not. If your woman is working for someone, the dentist, and she's letting him go into her mouth after 5 p.m., that's even worse. That's bad. If the dentist is paying your wife, who in turn pays the bills at the place you stay, from Sigfredo's cultural point of view, that is looked at as that man is the man of your house. She's working for him and she's doing other stuff with him. The only thing that he can do to prevent that is let her get paid off this job that he's going to do. But at the same time, because he did it, he knows that.
The 18th was the last day for the affidavit to be signed, verifying that what Dan was saying, that she lied about the financial affidavit. So there had to be a filing, and the last day they could do it was the 18th. And Stephen Webster was waiting to hear back from Dan that day. So when Stephen Webster, my recollection, gets the call from law enforcement about Dan, he thought Dan had been arrested, that Wendi had accused him of like domestic violence or something, because that's what Stephen was afraid of, that he was like, don't be alone with her. Don't be in a way that she could kind of frame him for something. And that's what he thought had happened. But it was that day, and they were going to go after her law license. And yes, if she inherited money, that's all great and fine, but it has to be reported to the court. Every financial filing you have, like you're filing, say you want an insurance thing and you're declaring bankruptcy, that money, like if maybe an insurance award for your medical health, something like that, you still have to file it with the court. You can't exclude your finances. And he is saying that is what she did.
Charlie will not cross that boundary because Sigfredo, by his actions, tells him, don't come over here no more, or I'm going to put a hole in your face. What's Charlie going to do? Charlie is so... During Charlie's trial, when Luis was up there, he looked at him, and Charlie shriveled up. He just compressed into
the weak ass that he is.
Just nothing. Luis looked at him like, it was over for Charlie. And Luis is over there, in a 3-piece, handcuffs, leg irons, with the chain going in between, so he can't do nothing. He has to pick up the papers like this. And Charlie's over there scared. I'm telling you. What do I think about Rivera's letter to Ruth? I don't know. Hearing Ruth read the letter isn't enough for me to understand what Luis is expecting by writing the letter. I have to actually see the letter, and that can tell me a little bit more as to what Luis's intentions may be. Because just writing someone and saying you're sorry may not be, it may be what he wanted to say, but for someone like Luis, there's always going to be there's something else going on with.
Remember when Wendy's on the stand and she's like, yeah, we started getting along. Things started working out. It wasn't a big deal anymore. Oh, no, 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 no. No, no, no. I believe that amongst the family, even before Katie was brought in, there were many, many talks about how to get rid of him. Many, many talks. And then it all came down to Charlie knew, because Wendi knew Charlie knew dirty people. I don't believe for 1 second it all started October 31st. And I only know that because True Crime Wifey reminded me that the cash started flowing November 4th. There's no way it all happened in 4.5 days. No. Nope. I think prompted it was Wendi was going to buy a house. And that spurred the family on. Like, once she buys a house, what are we going to do? But I don't want to throw the realtor under the bus that I spoke with, but it was the male realtor who was called to the stand and basically thrown under freaking, it's just awful. How he was treated. Like, he didn't even know. He goes in and sits in the courtroom, and that was all set up by Jackie Fulford. She's the one who told him to go and sit in that courtroom. He is the one, along with Lisa Carey, who kind of tag team Wendi and Dan Markel. So they both knew each other. They both knew the Markel, like Wendi Adelson and Dan Markel before. So he told me in a parking lot at a Sunstop that he had taken Harvey and Donna around to show homes. He knew they were never buying a house. He just knew body language, something, but they did the thing. And he didn't tell me what the date was. And I thought, I bet after that, that's when it was, because he knew they weren't buying, but it was sure the machinations of going to look at a home. But I don't know how much before the murder was done when that started going on. There's no way.
With this, if I see the letter and I can see the paper it's written on and how it's written, that can tell me a few things. One thing that it can tell me, if it's worded a certain way, I know if he wrote it himself, because dudes in jail sometimes put on people, get people that are real eloquent with their speech to write something for them. They'll pay them to do that. So it's not really their words. But if it is their own words, cool. But maybe he's writing that letter not for what he tells to Ruth, but what information he can get from Ruth if she writes him back directly.
She said, watch Donna's body language and deep breaths and sigh when Georgia catches Wendi lying. I'm assuming you're talking about Wendi lying on the stand about being told Dan was shot in the police car, which she was not. Why would you do that? Why did Laura not prep her? Why was she not prepped? I was watching somebody talking about getting ready for a deposition. And what was it? The question was, what time is it? Oh, no. The question was, do you know what time it is? And the response was something like, no. Or the response was, I look at my watch. Or the response is, it's 10:30. The question is, do you know what time it is? Yes or no? It's not, a full answer at 10:30. And I thought that was freaking brilliant. Do you know what time it is? Why did he not prep her? Or why would she not go back and watch her old testimony? There's so much of it. Or why doesn't she just tell the fucking truth? Why would she just not tell the truth? Do you know what time it is? You either do or you don't. Yes or no? That is how you answer a question in a deposition. This woman, when can't answer her ass from a hole in the ground, and she was there. When did you learn Dan was shot? Sitting in the questioning room, interrogation room with Craig Isom. Not in the car. It's just a flat out lie.
That's what I'm thinking of. If you write someone a letter and it goes to Georgia Cappleman and says forward to the Ruth, and then Ruth forwards it, and then it gets forwarded to Ruth, and then it has Luis's address, and Ruth writes him back, then he knows where she is.
Florida is not a common law state, and they were never legally married.
Granted, Luis is locked up, but if he knows where her location is, that I'm not saying that he'll do anything nefarious, but he may want this. The only thing I can think of is him wanting a direct means to contact her without it being filtered through the Bureau of Prisons to Georgia Cappleman, from Georgia Cappleman to Ruth. I think if anything, if he found out where she was directly, he can send someone to, if he can, send someone to say something that to Ruth that can't be told through each relay person. Kind of no different than what I just told you about, where you talk to the direct person, then you don't want to go through the go-betweens. That's the only thing that I can think of. Crash dummy for who though? Katie? It's not he was crashing out for the Latin King. Well, yeah. If Sigfredo did this to win the approval of Katie and win her back, because that's what was said, that's what he will get in return for doing this. Yeah. And the part about crashing out for the Latin Kings, that's a whole other thing, because in the FBI paperwork of the Latin Kings RICO, which Sigfredo was not indicted for, but he was named in that, he was identified in their paperwork, and he was not called.
Thanks, Debbie. And that just, again, shows how manipulative. She didn't want Wendy's name on a lease, so she put her own name on the lease. Why would you do that unless you're trying to keep the kids from somebody? You're trying to stop from getting served? Why would you do that? I don't think enough is made of that lease for Aqua Ridge, and that it was in Donna's name and not Wendy's. Who's paying the lease? Remember, she said she didn't have any money. Donna's probably paying the lease. I know who the property manager is. Why would they just not do that? Why? Why would you not put it? And she didn't want her daughter's name on the lease. She didn't want anyone to know. Why? What are you preventing? You didn't want anyone to know to stop the divorce. I mean, that shows what a meddling bitch she is. And so do you don't think that woman did not go down to those schools in South Florida and put those boys in school? You're lying to yourself. There's no way. I wish to God we knew that question. When were the boys registered for school? There's a whole lot of conspiracy on that. Why would she put her name on that lease? Who are you trying to stop being served? Were you so scared for Wendy's safety because Wendi hyped you up, Donna? Is that the reason? Because Wendi hyped him up as being this massively abusive human being. So you were scared for your daughter? I mean, that's really the only reason. But that's all a lie. And your mom's serving life in prison because of you, Wendi.
Tuto. He was called King Tuto. So from the FBI's perspective, he was a member of the Latin Kings. Now, I'm not a Latin King.
Ramble on, the Guilty Words video. Could you send that to me? I don't know what it is. In which she did statement analysis that assessed Wendy's side of an email conversation between Donna was what helped my brain finally think that Wendi is the top of the plan. I don't know which video that is.
I'm not a gang member, but I might know some people who are. And there is something that a Latin Kings member can do to amicably separate themselves from the gang. What that is I don't know. It's really up to that power structure. But if you want to get out of the gang, you might have to do something. And you might have to do something that is, you'd be risking your life, but at the same time benefiting the gang in a major way one last time. And it's called a Golden Gate. Being that the FBI considered Sigfredo Garcia as King Tuto in 2014, and then when he's arrested in 2016, he's only talked about as Luis Rivera's friend. This whole thing with Dan Markel could have been his Golden Gate. I don't know that for sure, but based on what I know about them, is that that's one way you can get out amicably. I don't know any other way, but I think that's it, is a Golden Gate. There are some other Hispanic gangs that you may be able to leave amicably based on having children and your age, or a combination of both. I won't say which one that is, but that's the thing. But as far as the Latin Kings, there's a thing called a Golden Gate. So I do know that may be the case. So if he crashed out for the Latin Kings to not be a part of the Latin Kings, think about it. If he's trying to be an upstanding citizen and not deal with the day-to-day stuff that comes along with being a gang member, and you just want to be with your kids and your woman, and that's the key to get out the gang through the Golden Gate process, it makes sense. If you know that Katie will be back with you, and y'all can be a happy family, and you also don't have to live up to the standards of being a gang member, would be ideal for you to do that. Because then it's like the money aspect will go to the gang, or a large portion of it. And it might be the part of the reason why Luis was part of it, because he was the leader of that set. So he would get what he got, and also with the extra, because Luis talked about Sigfredo even giving him a couple extra $1,000. People don't do that. So and then once he stopped, he had a decent job. He worked at some kind of finance company or something. He was doing the type of work you wouldn't expect, like a felon. He was employed by a place that probably wouldn't hire a felon, And he was living a different life. And then that's when the FBI came in there and talked to him. So it's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what it is. There's some things about them that I would like to know, but I don't really think it's worth it for me to try to connect with them, even though like maybe I could, maybe, but I don't think there's enough. The type of information that I would really want is not something that they would share with me, and that other information the things that I'm speculating on, it's not really, doesn't do anything for me to really actually know it for certain from someone from over there. Get to these comments. Oh yeah. Oh, let me tell y'all this. Speaking of Ruth Markel, your boy got her book.
I wonder if the lease was up in June, they were paying month to month. Wouldn't that be important evidence? I don't think the lease was up in June. I think it was up in August. I forget. If let's say the lease was written in May or June, I think it was up in August. So they just paid the extra month. Yeah, it would be interesting to know. Let's go back. How much notice they gave that the lease, because the property manager is quite strict, because I know him, and she would have had to give notice or pay out a couple months extra.
And it's even autographed. See that? She called me Christopher.
Ah, nice. That's really nice. I'm glad he got a book, and I'm glad she sent it to him, and I'm glad of all that. That's pretty cool. Because that's how all my life started with this, was going to meet Ruth Markel at a book signing. Do you think Wendi feels anything about her mom and brother being in prison? I think she's scared shitless. That's why she's thick. She's scared shitless. You remember when she sat on the stand and said, I'm not going to be arrested. But she also said her mother wasn't going to be arrested. So you got to love it. There's so much evidence against Wendi. Why? I mean, I have absolutely no idea. I wish to God I knew. But yeah, the lease was up in August, I thought. The guilty words lady basically summed up what Dawn from Lounge Bar Crime in the UK was saying for years. I don't know who the guilty words lady is. I guess I haven't seen it. The lease is very important. Of course, doesn't prove murder, but just a piece of the puzzle. It's just, I think, a piece of the conspiracy. Who paid for it? Probably mom. When was notice provided? And going back, which I think Debbie Martin said for years now, go back to the school. Go back to the school in South Florida. Who registered the boys? What day were they registered? It's a 60-day notice for this property manager. 60 days is required. Now, did they use the murder to try and get out of it? I don't think he cares, to be honest with him. The scenario Grish is describing here would explain why it was so beyond problematic that Katie was stealing and skimming money. Wendi defying under oath that she was happy living in Tallahassee, was happy that she had to stay there, given that there are people who can refute that, makes her look like a pathological liar, and contributes to the idea that there was a conspiracy. Because it's just not true. I mean, she's bad-mouthing. If you were just getting along, why are you bad-mouthing Dan to Craig Isom? Why are you bad-mouthing on the man's deathbed? Why are you bad-mouthing Dan to Sarah, the idiotic victim's advocate? And I mean that with all due respect, but you're an idiot. If everything was going along just fine, and swimming was just a thing, why are you bad-mouthing Dan to Jane? And why is Jane rubbing on you like she's your mother? And why are all your friends social workers? That is really bothering me. Every friend, the man you dated, all of these people are social workers. Is that because you just don't think them as smart as you? No, they didn't. He doesn't do 2-year leases. He does not do 2-year leases. The Adelsons would have paid a lease for a year if it meant getting their Wendi Pooh home. Bye, Debbie Gibby. Have a good night. He has not been deemed an unindicted co-conspirator. You got your book from Roof, and I was pretty much an emotional wreck. Aw, bless your heart. Setting a facade, lining up to make it look like she was planning to live in Tallahassee is the first thing anyone would do if she wanted to try and get away with this. I love that house, she said. I loved it. It was a great house. Thank you, Leslie B, for sending me Ruth's book. Oh, that's nice. Wendi spent zero money after the divorce. Parents totally supported her. DA kept the records. Stupid. Details of the moving trucks, I know. I wish. No, he was not referred to as an unindicted co-conspirator, no. The new house she was going to buy that she canceled the contract. It was in Ox Bottom, which is a neighborhood in the Northeast. She loved that house. It's a beautiful home. Did Wendi really call Danny's life insurance company a couple days after his death? That's what I was told. I don't know who the Guilty Words lady is. Hold on. Not trying to shut down my StreamYard from all these things being up. Now it showed up, right? Don't you love Google? Oh, there's a channel called Guilty with 46,000 subscribers. Good for you. Well, she has a bunch. I'll have to watch her. The Art of Not Answering. Wendi Scripted Innocence. Is there one about an email, though? This is her channel. Is this it? Is this the email that you're talking about? Does anyone know which video?
Hey, everybody. There's a small detail from Wendi's testimony in Charlie's 2023 trial that is really bugging me, but I'm struggling to pinpoint the significance. Come along with me and let me know what you think. Hi, everybody. It's Chris from Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. Tonight, I want to take a look at a very short snippet from Charlie Adelson's 2023 trial. We've actually looked at this before, but I want to look at it with a completely different lens. And I'm going to ask you to help me figure out if there is something super significant here or if I'm just reading too much into it. Let's take a look together. So just to give some context, in this clip, Georgia Cappleman is asking Wendi Adelson about Dan Markel's motion to have her mother have supervised custody of the children. And Wendi is saying that Donna Adelson had no idea about this. Georgia counters and says, but you forwarded it to 12 people. And she lists the 12 people, and Donna Adelson was one of them. Now, in a previous video, I used this same clip as an example of Wendi telling an obvious lie that Georgia could quickly dispute. But now I want to focus on something else. I want to focus on the 12 people that Wendi sent it to. Listen for who's missing, not who she sent it to, but who she didn't send it to. And then let's talk after.
Is it fair to say your mom was worried about this motion?
No, my mom never knew about this motion. And as I mentioned before, Danny asked my mom to babysit after filing this motion. So I don't really believe anything that's written here.
Well, you forwarded this motion to your mother.
I don't believe I
via
did.
Email. In fact, you forwarded this motion to 12 different people. Your mom, Jeffrey Lacoste, Renee Griggs, Tova Walsh, Morgan Honeycutt, Gary Cohen, Miguel Edmondson, Trey Hubler, Robert Adelson, Rachel Frank, Jared Reich, and some MEHULNYC@yahoo.com. So if you weren't worried about this, why'd you send it to all these people?
So my question is this. Why didn't she send it to Charlie? She sent it to all these friends. She sent it to
She sent it to Robert, but not Charlie. 12 years of my life.
her brother Robert, who was persona non grata. Why didn't she send it to Charlie? I think she knew by sending it to Donna, it was the same thing. And it also kept her one step removed from whatever Charlie was thinking, planning, or going to do. She could have plausible deniability. I didn't send it to Charlie. I wasn't trying to wind him up. But she could send it to her mother.
Oh my God.
Knowing perfectly well her mother would wind Charlie up for her.
Oh my God. I don't even think it's that. It's a great theory. She didn't need to send it to him because he already knew. My head's blown.
On the other hand, I could be reading way too much into this. Tell me what you think. Why didn't Wendi send this to Charlie as well as these other 12 people? And indeed, actually, why send it to so many people? She certainly seemed to share a lot of information with a lot of people about her divorce. Looking forward to seeing your comments below. And as always,
that's hilarious. Charlie was just like, see if she has another short one.
Hey everybody, it's Chris from Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. Ask Wendi Adelson a direct question, and you'll rarely get a direct answer. What you get instead is something smoother, polished sentences that sound honest, but operate like a shield. Tonight we'll take a look at her police interview and the testimonies in the various trials to see how her calm, polished speech works like a verbal defense system, turning truth into suggestion. Let's take a look at it together. Let's look first at her linguistic deflection. When asked, did anyone ever talk about hurting Dan, Wendi doesn't answer the question. She says, that's not something I ever would have wanted. In one quick shift, the question about someone else's actions becomes a statement about her own feelings. The same move shows up again in her trials. He was more observant of kosher rules than I was, or I may have felt that way at the time. Each sentence sounds introspective, but actually redirects attention. Even in interviews, she told reporters, I think the police think my family had something to do with this, but we didn't. That kind of phrasing wraps denial in empathy, making it sound thoughtful instead of defensive. When Wendi doesn't want to commit to details, she turns to vague nouns and soft verb tenses. Things like, it was a complicated situation. Things were hard back then. I don't know how to answer that. Even, I guess I could have, is a gentle hedge that blurs accountability. These phrases sound sincere, but remove all specifics. Who acted, what happened, and when it mattered. It's the linguistic equivalent of fog. You think you see the shape, but everything stays safely blurred. Now watch how expertly Wendi flips questions into commentary. For example, when asked, did you ever discuss moving to Miami before Dan was killed? She answers, we talked about how nice it would be if the boys could grow up near my family. The timeline vanishes and the tone softens to nostalgia. When asked if she moved out when he was away, she says, I rented a home in Tallahassee. And when pressed about her parents' money, well, it depends how you define wealthy. This is reframing, turning a binary question into an interpretive one. By restating the premise, she seizes control of the meaning and closes the loop with sentiment instead of substance. Some of Wendi's most strategic answers sound the nicest. I totally understand why people might have questions. I respected the court's decision and I would make the best of it. I was happy at my job.
We just
I
talked
can
about
understand that. These are classic examples of positive politeness, empathy that ends inquiry. Listen to how carefully Wendi handles her pronouns. They were concerned about Dan. We just wanted what was best. He thought I was controlling. Each choice repositions her. They pushes the blame outward. We claim shared virtue, and he isolates conflict. By toggling pronouns, she edits alliances on the fly. Pronouns become like steering wheels. She drives the conversation wherever safety lies. Wendi once said, he was using religion as a way of controlling me. But notice what happens next. Her own words demonstrate control. I would have left Danny regardless of anyone else's input. My mom isn't controlling. I don't remember saying that. Each statement rewrites the narratives, softening conflict while keeping authority. Through selective memory, because we saw a lot of that in her testimonies, and careful phrasing, she dictates what is knowable. Control doesn't always look forceful. Sometimes it sounds perfectly calm. Wendi has yet another verbal defense mechanism. When scrutiny rises, she pivots from suspect to sufferer. I was in shock. I was just talking and talking. I didn't eat for a month. I was terrified someone would come after me. He treated me badly, but even my family would never do something like this. Later, she told reporters, "I've been through hell and back. People don't understand." These statements turn suspicion into sympathy. Her verbosity becomes trauma, her defensiveness becomes compassion. The role flips from conspirator to emotional casualty. Wendy's language is polished to the point of gentleness.
But it
Harsh
doesn't.
realities shrink beneath soft substitutions. Instead of abusive, she prefers controlling. Instead of hatred, it's frustration. Instead of conspiracy, she says family support. These word swaps drain emotion and accountability. He would sometimes rub people the wrong way. I was unhappy. I might have called him that as a silly nickname. We had differing views. Her sentences smooth every edge until nothing sharp remains, and that calm tone makes her denial sound civilized. By now, the pattern is clear.
What was it you said, Leslie? She said she didn't eat for a month, and who doesn't eat for a month and goes and gets sushi?
Refocus. She answers the emotion, not the fact. Reframe. She replaces accusation with abstraction. Rephrase. She uses modal verbs, would have, might, could, to blur certainty. And reclaim. Politeness redeems her power. Wendi doesn't deny, she redirects. Her grammar turns conversation into construction. Every phrase is a small act of self-preservation. So what conclusions can we draw from all of this? Well, as we know, language is never neutral. It builds stories, it shields motives, and sometimes it can manufacture innocence. Wendi Adelson's calm syntax isn't accidental, it's engineered. Each polite phrase deflects, reframes, or rewrites. When truth is dangerous, grammar may become either a shield or a weapon. Thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your time. And if you like this content and want to see more, please.
She has a whole playlist of the art of not answering.
Can you explain to the jury, since you're an attorney, what immunity is?
Immunity is freedom from prosecution.
So that means that anything you say today can't be used against you if the state decides to arrest you later on.
The state isn't going to decide to arrest me.
Oh, I wanted to punch her right there.
Well, here's hoping those words come back very soon to haunt Wendi Adelson. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris from Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. Now that Donna Adelson has been summarily convicted, everyone is wondering if Wendi is next and what this immunity she has can do to protect her. And as far as I can tell, again, I'm not a lawyer, but the immunity doesn't protect her from much, mostly because Georgia was so careful in all 4 trials about what questions she asked Wendi and how she asks them. She did it in such a way to make the immunity worth no more than the paper it was written on. So let's take a look at Wendi's immunity and look at Georgia's long game to trap Wendi. So Wendi has what's called use and derivative use immunity, meaning that her words in court couldn't be used against her, nor could new leads that came directly from her testimony. But it's not a transactional immunity from prosecution. Prosecutors can still pursue charges if they get evidence from places other than Wendi's testimony. And if you look back at the 4 trials, she didn't really give them much. Let's take a look at them together. So it's important to realize what the point of the questioning of Wendi in all the trials is. What Georgia does is she brings up corroborated evidence and Wendi confirms it. And there's a special reason for doing this. One is later, Wendi can be impeached if it's proven that she's lying on the stand. And the other is it sidesteps the immunity. Everything that Wendi is asked about, for the most part, comes from other sources. They don't want any new leads from Wendi because they wouldn't be able to use them. Those are protected under the immunity. So corroborated evidence, confirming it, that's good. New leads, no way, those have to come from somewhere else. So this means that they avoid inviting new uncorroborated statements. They don't ask Wendi to tell a story of what happened. Instead, they pin her down to things like documents, transcripts, court orders, phone records, wiretaps, things third-party witnesses have said. That's part of the reason Wendi, more than any other witness, has spent so much time flicking through binders and re-looking at emails to refresh her memory. They're tying her to those. They aren't saying, so tell us what happened the day of the murder, and just letting her go through whatever narrative that she decides to make up. They're being very calculated to frame her answers in such a way that she's not bringing anything new in. Now, in order to do this, like I said, they anchor all the questions in documents, transcripts, emails. They avoid asking open-ended questions that could produce some kind of evidence that might be suppressed by the immunity. And they can make a collection of denials and admissions that later they may impeach Wendi with later, which means make her seem uncredible or show that she's lying or unreliable or biased or whatever on the stand. So let's take a look at the 2019 trial, and I'll give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Here, Cappleman anchored questions in court filings and orders, the things you can pull from the docket, not in Wendi's memory. So she asks her, did you file a motion to relocate? And was that motion granted or denied? And it was denied. And then Georgia ties the motive to the documented litigation and a pending protective access motion regarding Donna's contact with the kids. That was still pending at the time of his murder, correct? She uses Wendi's own recorded statement about the TV versus hitman line because it's independently corroborated by other evidence. She starts with the documentation and has Wendi confirm it. And she keeps her questions short and targeted. Did Charlie ever joke that buying you a TV was cheaper than a hitman? He did make that joke. There's no wiggle room here for Wendi to put something in that might suggest another lead for them, be it a true or false lead, that couldn't be used against her. In Katherine Magbanua's retrial, Cappleman again tethered Wendi to evidence that existed outside of Wendi. And this was especially true for the enhanced 2016 Dolce Vita restaurant recording and the state's broader phone record map. So she asks Wendi, were you aware of your brother ever having any communications with Sigfredo Garcia? And Wendi says no. Now think about some of these questions. If somewhere Georgia has proof that Wendi did know about these communications, then this can impeach Wendi. She has to follow up. So it would be surprising to you to learn they had a relationship? Wendi, yes. And these questions are foreshadowing outside proof, the recordings and records, rather than relying on Wendi as a primary source. You know, what did you hear Charlie say about Katherine? Or what did you know, when did you know it, for his communications with Sigfredo Garcia? All of that is left out. Remember, Cappleman's not trying to elicit everything that Wendi knows on the stand. She's trying to establish a foundation of confirming through Wendi or denying evidence that's come from other sources. In Charlie Adelson's trial, Georgia Cappleman followed the same pattern. Again, we heard a lot of the standard questions about her childhood, her parents, the dental practice, what was Charlie like, all those kind of things. And then when it came to some of the deeper facts of the case, it was always based on something outside Wendi that they didn't need her to prove. But this time they started asking more pointed questions. Your family had your ex-husband killed to help you, didn't they? Why would Georgia ask that? Wendi's not going to say yes. Why ask a question that you know Wendi is going to say something like she did? No, that's completely untrue. Well, it's a nice, clean denial, and the state can impeach her later with the recordings and records that we may not have seen yet, instead of her testimony. And then in that trial, when the defense was floating around the blackmail, extortion, by payment plan theory, Cappleman locked Wendi into a denial. When did you learn that Katherine Magbanua was blackmailing your brother? And Wendi says, today. If there's any indications that Wendi knew about this beforehand, or something to do maybe with Catherine's involvement, again, it can be used to impeach her in her testimony. And at the same time that they are doing this with Wendi, they are spending their hours walking the jurors through all the call location and text records with the agents. They're keeping all of the specific lead generating details with investigators, not with Wendi. And with this most recent trial, Donna Adelson's, Cappleman again built her examination almost entirely on documents.
But they're not doing it if Jason Newland doesn't think it's big evidence.
Prior recordings. From her police interview transcript in 2014, Cappleman read Wendi's line, "My parents have more reason to dislike Danny than anyone else," and then asked Wendi about it in court. And Wendi said, "I was in shock. I just kept talking." Yeah, your family has a habit of doing that, Wendi. So the point lands using the transcript, not Wendi as a fresh source. From a 2013 email, Cappleman confronted Wendi with the "I hate him in this moment. I hate that I hate my children's dad" email. And again, it's a document that the jury can read. Court orders. Cappleman asked about the denied relocation and Donna's reaction, items that were memorialized in the file and shown in court. Those crazy emails from Donna that we've seen so often, and Wendi had to acknowledge the $1 million bribe email as Donna's idea. And Cappleman's questions were framed to the exhibit rather than fishing for new details from Wendi. Essentially, she locked Wendi in. But someone did hire a hitman to kill Dan Markel. Yes. And the perennial, "Were you involved in the plot?" And of course, Wendi says no. But again, these denials are impeachable later if, or hopefully when, the state files charges and introduces independent proof. What didn't Cappleman ask Wendi? And where did they put the facts instead? Well, anything to do with phone calls and text analytics, the timelines, the tower hits, the connect the dots, those came from agents with the long technical blocks, not from Wendi. She didn't ask Wendi, "Were you here when you did this?" or "Was somebody there when they did that?" Because it avoids turning Wendi's answers into derivative use, which means making it look like the police used information from her testimony to go out and find some extra facts they didn't have before. The financial flow and logistics, who paid what when, appeared via investigator testimony, not through Wendi's memory. Georgia didn't ask Wendi about, "Well, you say you didn't have enough money for the house. Well, are you sure? Tell us all about your finances, Wendi." She let Wendi's tale about not being able to afford to buy the house slide and brought in the financial information somewhere else. The Dolce Vita recording with Charlie and Katie was introduced through law enforcement witnesses and then only referenced with Wendi to confirm awareness or denials about it. And again, they keep grounding her in motions, orders, emails, transcripts, instead of eliciting free-form narratives that could generate suppressed leads later. Compare it to Rob Adelson's testimony, where Rob sat back and told the narrative of what happened. I heard the news when I was at the conference and I had to call my mother back. And then, my mom called me, or my wife and I were waiting to see if she was going to call about this. He was allowed to sit back and tell what happened. Wendi has not been. Wendi has been thoroughly tied to these binders she has to keep looking at. And that's completely on purpose. I'm really hoping, as many of you are.
It's extremely valid. I mean, we all watched the trials, so we all know. Make that deposition really hard, won't it, John? Make it really, 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 really hard. It's all about Wendi. There's just no way. Why didn't she send that? Why would she wasn't even close to Robert, but yet she sent that email to Robert. She says it on the stand. She wasn't close to him. We all believe it. And yet she sent that email to Robert. Useless immunity. I love that she said it. Here's the TV story. And I'll let y'all go.
Hey everybody, it's Chris from Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. Except tonight we're doing something a little different. I have a confession to make. I am fixated on Wendi Adelson's TV alibi. It makes no sense to me, and I feel like there's something in there where if I just think about it enough, I can get it. And part of it is how the TV got broken. But give me a second just before we get to the hammer. Think of everything that's wrong with this alibi. First of all, it was even the buying of the TV. Charlie was going to buy it, but then his parents bought it and for him, and he paid them back, and then it got sent to Wendi, but the warranty was under Harvey and Donna's name. Why on earth didn't Charlie just order it online and have it shipped to her? And why, even if the warranty was under Donna's name, couldn't she just give Wendi the number of the warranty and have her call Geek Squad and explain? I'm sure they see that kind of thing all the time. Also, what were the terms of the warranty? There are some warranties, and I don't know if this was true in 2014, but there are some, at least for computers, that cover everything. I can spill a cup of coffee on my laptop and it's covered. So would accidental damage like this be covered? Even if it wasn't covered by the warranty, it might be covered by the credit card company that Donna used to purchase the TV. So was it even a question about whether or not to replace it and how much it would cost? How long did the repair person stay? He said that Wendi was nervous. What did they talk about? Where's the write-up slip from his visit? What did he see when he got there on the TV itself? Now, Jeff Lacoste said that the TV had a spider web break to it. And that's important because I researched breaks. And spider web breaks are impact breaks that are caused by something with kind of a if not sharp, at least relatively pointed force to it that hits in the one spot and then things spider web around it, as opposed to sort of a line or wavy break that's more of a pressure break. So something was definitely thrown at the TV. Wendi claimed that her kids had thrown one of their shoes, I think it was. And Jeff thought it was odd because it was a large TV mounted 6 feet up on the wall. And what flashed in my mind was actually Sarah Boone's trial when they played the video of George smashing the TV with a baseball bat and how surprisingly difficult it was to break a TV. So I thought, I wonder, is this just one really strong toddler, or did something else happen? In addition, she had a second TV, but then she kept watching this one. It was broken in June when the first assassination attempt happened, but didn't get fixed till July when the second assassination attempt happened. And then there was the 18-minute phone call to Charlie to discuss, do we repair it? Do we replace it? And it's a yes or no answer. Shouldn't take 18 minutes. Although I will say, if a yes and no answer question is going to take 18 minutes to answer, it's because you're talking to Charlie Adelson. The guy does not know how to shut up. So that's, in Wendy's favor, I guess. In any case, I wanted to see what it was like to throw.
But the Geek Squad guy said it can't be fixed.
Things at a TV. And I happen to have a TV knocking around my house from 2011. So it's even older than Wendy's TV.
Interesting. Oh, I'm excited.
And therefore, if Wendy's TV had more sophisticated anti-smashing properties on the screen, this one should theoretically be easier to break. So what you're going to see is a recording of me throwing things at a TV and then finally taking a hammer to it. And I was recording sound at the time, but it didn't come across well. So I'm going to do some narrations and put some graphics on the screen about what's going on. And I think you'll have a pretty good idea what the results are going to be. And spoiler alert, no kid throwing his shoe at a TV made that kind of damage. So let's go smash something together. So the first thing I'm going to throw is my shoe, because I don't have any little kid shoes in my house right now. And I figured, well, it should work. And remember too, this was supposed to be a toddler throwing it up against the wall at 6 feet. Now you can see there's a reason I am not a professional baseball player. So there were a few lost attempts, but long and short of it, no marks at all. So next I tried the TV remote. It had some nice sharp corners, hard plastic. I made 3 attempts, one of which didn't even hit the TV. Yeah, there's a reason I'm not a baseball player. But again, there may be a little scratch, but nothing like a spider web break. Next, I upped the game with a cat figurine that I had that was hard plastic with pointy ears and other pointy bits. It did scratch the TV some, but still didn't break it. However, the TV broke the cat. Bummer. All right, I have hammer. So without further ado, let's get to the hammer. It was surprisingly difficult to get a spiderweb crack in the TV. I had to try several times with increasing force, and I'm not naturally used to smashing things with hammers, so, but there is something kind of cathartic about it, I guess. And yes, I did end up with a spider web. I'd be really curious to see what Wendy's looked like. Of course, it wouldn't really hold up in court because she could just say, well, yeah, I did hit it with a hammer in a moment of temper and I was too embarrassed to admit it, or whatever story she would make up to cover. But at least we know, you and I, that really no talk.
Yeah, Jeffrey did say it was a dorm-sized TV. He didn't see it was anyone special, and they had to watch the that movie through it.
Toddler tossing a shoe at a TV caused that kind of damage. Thanks for coming with me on this kind of crazy little side trip and rabbit.
I mean, I wonder how my TV is now. Not that I want to go bust a TV for. Interesting. That was really interesting. Why did she exclude Charlie in that email? Charlie already knew he didn't need to. Well, on that note, thank you all for sticking with me. 3 hours and 45 minutes. Bit of a hodgepodge, but they kind of already are. How to Train Your Dragon. Like, what? Oh, is that what the movie was? It's all so sad. Also sad. She didn't send that email to Charlie. Why would she send it to Morgan Honeycutt? How long has she known Morgan? How long do you all think she's known her? Especially if it's 6 feet off the floor. The kids didn't accidentally just bump into that TV. How long do you think she's known Morgan Honeycutt? You know, when Donna was arrested, Morgan Honeycutt's, she was texting Morgan Honeycutt. That's who Donna was texting. She told Donna to inform Charlie at the interview, but not Rob, because they weren't close. Morgan Honeycutt. Morgan Honeycutt looked like it. This time, Morgan Honeycutt was emaciated. She's lost a ton of weight on the Ozempic. I don't know if she went there. Hold on. I know she lived in Miami at some point, but I don't know. University of New Mexico. She's never lived in Miami. I thought she did. She knows her somehow. Did she practice immigration law? Yeah, she did do criminal and immigration trial work, so she may know her from that. She's a super lawyer. You know how they call themselves that because they pay for it? She's no longer with the Santa Fe Law Group. If you wish to email her or call her, this is their website. Look at this. Now she's Honeycutt Family Law. Where's her website? It's a damn shame when you have to put a disclosure she's not associated with you anymore. Here she is. Aren't you supposed to change your address and stuff when you're practicing law? Am I wrong? One review. Her review says, lawyer's the worst. If you want someone who overbills you, treats you like garbage, refuses to vigorously advocate for you, and fails to convey critical information in your case, this is your best bet. Also, this firm is full of incompetent. Somebody lost their case. Yeah, but she's still, I thought you had to change all that. Morgan was on the list of 12 people Wendi sent the email about Dan's motion would require supervision of Donna's visit. So there's a prior history of these two knowing each other. Yeah, but I mean, I wonder how long. Interesting. You would think you'd have to change your address on all that stuff. I don't know. Do Wendi's website? She doesn't have a website. Doesn't have one. She has her LinkedIn where she's just Wendi A. Thank you all for watching. Have a great night. I have to go home. I have to work tomorrow. Hope you all have a great Monday. Take care, everyone. Thanks again.
It's